What's up everyone, it's Bucky and welcome to your very first Python tutorial. Now in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys how to download Python, and this is the program that you use to write all your Python code that I'm going to be teaching you from now on. So go ahead, and the first thing that you need to do is go ahead and open up an internet browser. I'm going to open up Firefox, but it doesn't matter what one you open. Then you need to go to www.python.org, not .com, .org. Go ahead and go to that, and you're going to see a link on the left hand side called download. Click that download link. Now depending on when you watch this tutorial, you're going to want to download the most recent Python version, and make sure that you're going to download the Windows installer and not any of these other ones. Go ahead and download Python 2.6. They might have a later version if you're watching this tutorial later, but right now it's Python 2.6.2 Windows installer. So go ahead and click that, and it's going to give you a MSI installer package, and this is just like a wizard. So go ahead and save that file. I already have this program downloaded, so I'm not going to go ahead and save it. But once you save that file, go ahead and double click on it, and it's going to take you through the whole process. So if you ever use the computer, you're going to be able to figure this out. Just keep clicking next and next until you got Python. So after you go and you clicked all those next things, you're going to have Python on your computer, and to get to it, go ahead, it's going to be in your start menu. Go ahead and click all programs, and you're going to have something called Python. Now you're going to have a couple things in here: idle, model, command line, Python manuals, uninstall. The first thing you want to click on, the first thing that we're going to be using is called idle, and this is the Python interface. So go ahead and click this twice, and remember that's idle, the Python GUI, and that stands for graphical user interface. And now this thing is going to pop up, and this is the first thing I'm going to be teaching you guys how to use Python. So just to make sure that this is working right, and I know you guys would be ready to start programming right now, to test it, go ahead and type print, and then go ahead and in double quotes type whatever you want to print on the screen. I'm gonna go with the basics, not do anything new, and go ahead and type hello world. Now after you typed print and in double quotations hello world, no semicolon, go ahead and press enter. And if on the next line it excerpts or outputs hello world, then you know you downloaded it correctly. So that is your very first tutorial in how to download Python. So hopefully you watch my next tutorials, and I'm going to be making a ton of tutorials showing you guys how to program in Python. It's one of my favorite languages. So follow these instructions, get this program, and hopefully I'll see you next tutorial. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. What's up everyone, it's Bucky. Welcome to your second Python tutorial. And in this tutorial I'm going to be talking to you guys about simple numbers and some simple math calculations in Python. Now in Python you do it a little bit differently than regular program languages, and remember we're still working in idle, the Python GUI. So open that, and once you got it open, you're ready to go. So last tutorial I told you guys how to make a basic output on screen, print. And in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys the basics of working with simple numbers and expressions. So the first thing that you can do is you can use the GUI or idle as a calculator. So do something like 2 plus 2. It will give you an answer. You can also subtract 6 minus 3. It'll give you an answer. Now you can do all these simple things, and another thing that you can do besides multiplication and stuff is simple division. So go ahead and you can do integer division, 18 divided by 3, like that. But what if you try integer division with numbers that don't divide evenly, like 18 over 7? Now this is 2 point something, but once you do that, it just gives you 2. And this is because Python is looking at your question, 18 divided by 7, and it says, alright, you're asking me what integer divided by an integer is, so I'm going to give you an integer is the answer. But we all know that 18 divided by 7 isn't 2. So how do we tell Python to give us the regular answer? Well, since the answer has decimal points, we need to ask Python in decimal points. In a decimal point number in computer language is called a float. And how you do this, how you get an answer in decimal points, you have to include a decimal point somewhere in your division. So 18.0 divided by 7, that will give you your answer. You can also do 18.0 divided by 7.0, and that will give you your answer. Or even 18 divided by 7 and just put a point, and that tells Python that you want a decimal point as your answer, and that'll give you your float answer too. Now, besides addition, multiplication, subtraction, and division, we got a fifth operation that comes in handy a lot of the time, and that's your modulus operator, and that's just the percent sign. Now, when you're dividing, you have this number right here, and you have a decimal point. But if you want an integer, the modulus is pretty much the remainder that you learn in high school or elementary school, whenever the heck you learned it. So 9 divided by 4 is 2 with a remainder of 1. So once you do 9 modulus 4, it's going to give you the remainder, which is 1. So the modulus, whenever you do that, it's just the remainder. So what if you got the modulus of something like 8 divided by 4? What's the remainder of that? It's 0. So whenever you press enter, voila, it gives you 0. Who would have thought? So you can even do one extra thing I just want to tell you about. You can even get a modulus of a float, like there, that'll give you a remainder. 8.75. What's the remainder when you divide it by 0.5? You have 0.25 left over. So that's how you use the modulus. And again, the modulus is just the remainder of whatever is left when it divides it by the let's see, denominator. So the last expression I want to talk to you guys about is how to do exponents in Python. And how you do this, 6, whenever you want to do something like 6 times 7, just put 6 star 7, it'll give you the answer. But whenever you want to do exponents, and remember, like something like 8 exponent 3 is 8 times 8 times 8, 8 3 times. Or 5 exponent 4 is 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. So how do you do this in Python? You can either do this, 6 times 6 times 6, and you can do that as many times as you like, but there's a lot easier way. Say you want 8 to the 3rd power. All you have to do is type 8, 2 stars, and then type whatever you want the exponent to be. 8 to the 3rd, bam, wham bam, thank you ma'am. And you can do this with any exponent you want. So instead of typing 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, I said that wrong, but oh well. Just type star star 5 times 12. Bam. That'll give you your answer. And you can also do this when your number is negative as well. So -5 exponent 4. Bam. There you go. So in this tutorial we covered basic math functions, and I'll also tell you guys how to do modulus and exponent. And those are the basic math functions, but we're going to be using them a lot in the future. So that's it for this tutorial. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys now have a better understanding of how to do simple math functions in Python. So again, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to check out the next tutorial, and I will see you next time. What's up everyone, it's Bucky, and welcome to your 3rd Python tutorial. Now in our 3rd tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you guys about something called variables. Now this concept is gonna seem kind of familiar if you learned any other programming languages, but for those of you noobs out there, what a variable is a placeholder for something else, or it's pretty much a temporary storage for any value. So it's real easy just to see how it works. So let me get, there we go, as soon as my cursor starts working, let me show you guys how this is done. How you create variables is you create a variable name first and assign it to a value. Now this value can either come from you or another person. So first let me show you guys how to create a real simple variable. Let's start with x. That's a pretty common name for a variable. and let me assign it to any number like 18. And then just put x equals 18 and press enter. Once you press enter, x now has the value of 18. So anywhere when you are doing basic functions like math functions, instead of typing 18, you can now type the letter x, and it's gonna represent the number 18. So instead of putting 18 times 4, all you can do, or all you have to do, is to put x, what are we gonna do, plus 15, and it's gonna view x as 18 and output whatever 18 plus 15 is. Now this value stays the same, x equals 18, unless you change it. So you can use it again and again. X, let's do exponent 3, 18 to the third power is that. And again, that's how you can assign variables to multiple values, or excuse me, just a single value. You can also have more than one variable at a time. So x equals 18 right now. You can also have y equals 54. Press enter. We now have two variables stored in our computer. X is equal to 18 and y is equal to 54. Now you can use both of these in the same function if you want. X plus y equals 18 plus 54 equals 72. And you can keep going on and on like this. Another thing that I want to show you guys is that if you're just looking at this and be like, alright, variables, they're kind of cool, but they're kind of worthless. Anytime you would want x to equal 18 or y to equal 54 when you're using these numbers, why wouldn't you just type 18 plus 15 or 18 plus 54? It's kind of a waste of time. Well, in this case, yes, it is a waste of time, but variables are useful, or they're going to be useful in the future when we're making applications, especially when we don't know what the value is yet. And if you're looking at what I just did and be like, how can you not know where you're going to add before you add it? Are you an idiot? Well, yes, I am an idiot, but more importantly, whenever you get information from a user and write programs this way, those are the things that you don't know what information they're going to enter yet. So say you write a program to like a mortgage calculator or something. Whenever they put the price of their house in, that's what you put. That number is going to be the variable. Then you run all the calculations from that. So how can we in Python make it so pretty much whatever they're going to enter is going to be stored into a variable? Well, I'm going to show you guys how to do that right now. To do this, you need a little function called input. So let's say we have a variable, let's store it in G. So put G equals input. Now in your empty parameters, just write a little message, put like enter number here. Now once you press enter, a little prompt's gonna come up, whatever you typed in your parentheses. Now this is what the user would see right here. So it's gonna enter a number right there, put 43. And once you press enter, that number 43, this is going to allow the user to enter whatever variable they want. So instead of just writing our own variables, this is a little function where the user can have their own variables. Now, unlike us assigning the variable, the user just assigned the number 43 to G. And this is why a bunch of different applications can be made possible. Now instead of 43, we can simply use the letter G for any function we want. G plus 32 equals 75. G exponent 3, whatever that is. So again, to assign your own variables, just write a variable name, one letter will do for now, and assign it using the equal sign. Or if you want to get the user to assign a variable for you, which you can use in functions later on, all you have to do is make a variable name, like anything, make it equals to, and put input. And then write a little message so they know what's going on. And again, this little input function right here, that allows the user to assign their own variables instead of having us do it. So again, that is your $2 tour on variables. I hope you learned something. Practice assigning your own variables and practice using the input so that other people can input variables in your program. And once you learn this and got used to it, then you're ready to move on to the next Python tutorial. So again, thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned a little something, and I'll see you next time. What's up everybody, welcome to your 4th Python tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be talking to you guys about functions. Now in the last tutorial I was throwing around the word functions quite a bit, but in this tutorial I'm going to actually be telling you what a function is and how to use it a little better. What a function is pretty much like a little built-in program that's built into Python, and it allows you to do kind of complex things without having to tell the computer every single instruction of what you're doing. So pretty much like in the last couple tutorials I told you guys how to use exponents like 5 * 4, and this did 5 to the 4th power, gives you 625. But there's also a function that can do this for you, and it's a little bit easier. So how you use a function is you first have to write the function name, and then after that you have to write any parameters that the function needs. And what a parameter is pretty much any information that a function would need to be able to solve a problem. So the function for power is pow, and in your parameters power needs 2 numbers, the base and the exponent. So this would be 5, 4. So once you press enter, it gives you the number. And this is a pretty simple one, but there are a lot different or more functions that are useful. And I'm rambling on, so let me give you guys another example just to show you guys. Something like absolute value would be really difficult to program if you didn't have a function. And what absolute value is it pretty much takes any number, how much it is away from 0, and I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but like -18 would be 18. And also, what the heck is that, ABD? And also something like 5, that would be 5. And don't mind that, I just did that for fun. But aside from functions, there's also something called modules. And a module is pretty much extra crap that's built into Python. Now this is pretty much allows you to get a whole list of extra functions. What they did is this Python interface, it only has so many functions you can use. This is just to like save memory on your computer and stuff like that. But if you want to go ahead and grab more functions, you can import them. For example, there's a function called floor, and what this does is take any number like 18.7 and round it down to 18. But look at that, whenever I try to use it, it gives me an old error message, and we don't want this. This is because we didn't import the module that allows us to use the function floor. So right now Python's just looking at it and be like, floor, what the heck are you talking about? What's that mean? Well, you don't know what this function is yet, even though it's built in somewhere. We just have to go find it. That's where we use modules. So in order to get a module, what you have to do is import it. So go ahead and type import, and the floor function is in the math module. So go ahead and put import math and press enter, and once you do, it's going to import the math module, and this math module is going to give you a whole list of functions that you can use relating to math. And now you can use the floor function, but you just can't use it like this, floor, with your parameters. You have to use it a special way. And how you do it is this. You have to type the name of the module first, such as math, put a period, and then type the function. So put math floor 18.7, and bam, look at that. We now can use the floor function this way. And another function that's in math is square root. So just to show you guys that this is kind of more useful aside from being the floor, the name for square root is sqrt. Get out of here, box. And let's take the square root of like 81 or something. Now whenever we press enter, bam, we now have two brand new functions just because we imported all of them using this simple command. So what import does is pretty much expand your options for functions, and that's going to come into use a lot later on. So again, if you're getting error messages when you try to use a function, it's probably because you didn't import those functions yet, and that's how you do that. So again, how you use functions that you import: type the module name and then the function name, and that's going to allow you to use them. Another very useful thing is you can also assign those to variables. So go ahead and make a variable name. I'm going to make mine called Bucky, and now you can do something like math.sqrt square root, press enter. Now instead of typing math.sqrt with your number in here every time, all you have to do is type whatever you put for the variable and put a number in there, and go ahead and press enter. And instead of typing math.square root, you can just type the name of your variable and then whatever your parameter, and that'll save you a bunch of time. So instead, again, just to reiterate one more time, instead of typing your entire function, all you have to do is put a variable name, assign it to a module, then a function name, and then go ahead and type something like that, and this will be like a built-in function, so you don't have to remember the module name and function name every time. So that is how you use a variable to assign it to a function, and that's a really useful method. So just play around with that a little bit, and it'll save you a bunch of time in the long run. So that's your quick tutorial on functions and modules. That's all you need to know for now. So practice this, and once you learn this, you're ready to move on to the next tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and post this, and hopefully someone will write first on the first comment, and hopefully everyone else will yell at them and give it a thumbs down like usual. So you guys have fun with that, and I'll work on the next tutorial. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. What's up everyone, it's Bucky. Welcome to your 5th Python tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys how to actually make programs that you can actually save and execute and treat them like a regular program. Now the thing that we were using right now, idle, is just the interface, and it's pretty cool for testing out things, but the only problem with this is anytime we build a program and we exit this, it's lost and we can never get it again. So what would be the point in creating Python if we can never save our programs? So now I'm going to show you guys how to do something where you can save your programs and show them to people and execute them anytime you want. So instead of this little thing right here, what we need to do is, if you're running idle, go to File, New Window, and this new window pops up right here. And this is the window that's going to allow you to save and also execute your Python scripts and programs. So before we even save it, we actually need a program. So just go ahead and print something real quick. Print hey now brown cow, and let's go ahead and save this. So go ahead, File, once you get a little program written, Save, and go ahead and save it to somewhere you're gonna remember. Make a name for it, and go ahead and give it a name. Press period, and the extension you want on it is py. Now this is very important. This is the most important part of the tutorial, so pay attention. The only thing you can have when saving a Python file is name it and put .py. This is going to save it as a Python file. Next, once you got your py extension, go ahead and press save. Now you can execute it. So go ahead, and once you got your file, there's a couple things that you can do to execute it. Now another thing I want to tell you guys, before you execute your program, you have to save it somewhere. So if you're like, alright, I'm not going to save it, I'm just going to run it, you can't. You gotta save it before you can run it. So there are two different ways. Once you save your file, you can run it. Go ahead and press run, and then you can go ahead and run module. Let's go ahead and do that right now. And as you can see, your little idle pops up and it runs it for you. Another thing that you can do is just press F5 on your keyboard, and same thing. Not too exciting, but just a little tidbit of information. So again, well, let me just move on to the next thing. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more to our program, and instead of this, let's go ahead and set a variable, and let's make it do something useful like x equals raw underscore input. And I'm doing this because I want to show you guys that it can actually be used as a regular program. So let's go ahead and make it input. Let's have something like enter name semicolon, and on the next line go ahead and print out hey, and then it'll print out, put the plus sign and then X. And what this program is going to do is have you enter a name, store an X, and then it's going to print hey and then your name using this. So copy that, and I'm going to show you guys how to do something right now. First thing I want to show you guys is if you try to run this without saving it. So I'm going to go ahead and press run module, and it's going to say I don't think so, Bessie. This must be saved before you can even run it. So go ahead, press OK to save, and then it runs. So that's what happens if you try to run your file without saving it. So you're going to go ahead and enter your name, my name Bucky, press enter, hey Bucky. And this is why creating it in a separate file is useful. Now we get to actually make a regular program instead of just seeing all the code before. And this is actually an application that can be useful to someone else besides ourselves. So that's one thing that you can do with it. Another thing that you can do with this is, let me go ahead and, well, I won't X out here, but as you can see, here's where I saved my file right here on my desktop. So I can treat this as a regular program right now, just saying like it's any other program like Microsoft Word or anything like that. So the way you do this is just double click it like a regular program, and let me double click that, and bam, look at that, we just had a regular program that we created. So let's go ahead and put enter name. Let me put Bucky, and whoa, what just happened? What it did was it executed, but it happened so fast that we couldn't see it. And I'll tell you guys why. Because what this program does is, and this is gonna, I'm not just telling you that you, hold on, let me get my thoughts together. I'm not just telling you guys this for fun. You guys actually gonna need to know this. What this program is doing is it runs this, and then it runs this, and once it gets done running and everything, it's like, alright, I did my job, see ya, I'm leaving. It did exactly what we tell it to, but not what we wanted it to. So what we're going to need to do now, and what we're probably going to need to do for the rest of these tutorials, is add another line of code. And that's raw underscore input. Now in your parameters, we got to give them a prompt. Press enter. And what this is going to do, let's go ahead and remember, save it. And what this is going to do right here, once I put these around, now I gotta save it again. Oh, so much work, so little time. Now what this line of code is going to do is it's going to allow us to actually see the output on our screen and see what we created instead of just running the code and disappearing. So again, this creates the program, and this allows you to actually see what's going on. So now once we click our program and run it, and what an awesome program we built. We're going to sell this baby for millions. It says enter name Bucky, enter. Now it actually shows us what we're doing instead of just running it real quick and disappearing. So now we see our program, we can press enter, exit, wham bam, perfect. A little too easy. So again, to sum up this, again, the graphic interface is pretty cool, but whenever you want to save your programs, you have to make a file, and you do that by putting file, new window, and then this brings up this, and you can make and save permanent programs that you can build and come back to later and later. What this did right here is pretty much allowed you to enter a variable, set it to X. This is just a print statement. And this last line right here is I'm just showing it to you guys because instead of just having a program that runs and disappears, this line we're going to be using it a lot from now on, especially since we have permanent programs now, to actually see what's going on instead of just running the program and disappearing before we can even tell what's going on. So that is how you do that, and that is your quick tutorial on how to save and run programs. If you have any questions, then just leave it in the comment box and I'll try to answer, or hopefully someone else can answer for you if I don't get to it. So again, thank you guys for watching. Follow everything I did, and once you learn how to save and execute programs from your text editor, what I just showed you, you're ready to move on to the next tutorial. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. What's up everyone, it's Bucky and welcome to your 6th Python tutorial. And in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys what strings are. Now actually I've already used strings a bunch in my last couple tutorials, but now I'm going to actually tell you guys that they actually have a name, and I'm saying actually a lot, so get used to it. So whenever I did something like I typed out just like a bunch of characters like hey now, that's a string. And it gets its name because a string is a string of characters, just a bunch of characters in a row, or it can be even a single character, it can stand alone. Now as you can see, this one used double quotes, but you can also type them in single quotes, same thing, and it's still a string. It doesn't really matter if you use double quotes or single quotes when you're using a string or quotes. It's the same thing, but in some cases Python is not going to understand if you don't use them in a particular way. So let's say for example you have conjunction like he's a jerk. See, you have the single quote right here, so that means that since you have a single quote in your actual string, you can't put single quotes around it like this. You can see the problem is pretty clear right here. Python is going to view this is the beginning of a string and this is the end of a string, so this is an entire string because single quotes mark the beginning and the end, and then it's going to see this one over here and be like, WTF is this? So to combat this problem we need to use double quotes around here like that, and now when we print it out it's going to know what we're talking about. Or another thing that we can do, if you just are dying to use single quotes, you can put he's a jerk, and you can have something called an escape clause or escape character, and that's the backslash right here. Now whenever you use a backslash when using a string, Python is going to look to the next character, whatever it is, and it's going to say, alright, this has no real meaning, he just wants me to print it out, it has no piece of the code besides, just print it out however it looks. So instead of saying, alright, here's the beginning, here's the end, it's going to say, alright, here's the beginning, we know this is just a regular quote because this backslash right here, so I guess this one would be the end. So it kind of tricks Python, and let me go ahead and press enter, and as you can see that works too. And it isn't only useful when you're working with single quotes like that, it's really also useful whenever you have a double quote like Bucky said, and then you have these little things like what quotes are really used for. Hey now, he said that to me. See, in this case, if you put quotes around here and try to print it out, now this whole thing in here is a sentence. It just has double quotes in part of the sentence. Now these double quotes aren't part of the Python programming language, but Python doesn't know that. What it's going to do is says, alright, this is a beginning and this is an end, since those are double quotes. I'm just a computer, I can't understand. And this is a beginning and this is an end. But what we see is no, this is actually an entire sentence right here, and it just has quotes in it because that's part of the English language. So we need to tell Python to start acting right. So what we do is whenever we use double quotes as part of the English language, and not actually part of our program language, we need to tell Python to ignore those using escape characters just like that. Now Python will see this is the beginning, don't see anything here, don't see anything here, they're invisible to me, and this is the end. Perfect. Bam. A little too easy. And let me just show you guys what would happen, because I know you guys. Let's go fishing. Fizzing, same thing. If you guys actually try to print this out, you would get a syntax error. So I'm not just making this up, you actually would get an error. And the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is how to join strings. Now, just like I showed you guys, numbers can be stored in variables, you can also store strings in variables. So say you have A equals Bucky and B equals Roberts. Anytime you want to join these strings, all you have to do is add a plus sign between them. A plus B, bam, look at that. Now that's all you would have to do, and then what Python does is add these two strings together in a one string of text. So again, you add A plus B, and you can't just put A, B like that, or A comma B. What you need to do to get your desired result is actually put A plus B. And that little plus sign, this is called concatenating a string. And concatenating a string means just adding it together. You'd actually probably want to change A to something like A Bucky with a space after it, and go ahead and press enter. Now once you do A plus B, it looks like a regular name. So again, that little addition sign right there concatenates strings or adds them together into one long string. And again, you need that because if you don't, you're going to get an error message. So that is pretty much the basics of strings. I know it's kind of boring, but I needed to tell you guys it, or else you'd be lost in the future. And that's how you concatenate strings or join them together. So there was your very boring tutorial on strings. I promise these will get more interesting from now on. That's just a little something you need to know. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. What's up everyone, it's Bucky, and welcome to your 7th Python tutorial. In the last tutorial, I talked to you guys about strings. Now that you guys have a basic understanding of strings, I can talk a little bit deeper on how strings are more useful, and this is actually a more helpful tutorial. Now, in the last couple tutorials, I showed you guys if you printed out a string just like this, then it gave you a return value in single quotes. But if you printed it out like this, use the print statement and then put something like that, it wouldn't give you single quotes around it. And this is because when it outputs it, what Python does is convert your code to strings, but it does it in two different ways. Now just take note of that for now, and I'm going to show you guys how to convert to strings and actually why it's useful. In some applications, or probably the most useful function of why this is even important at all, is because a lot of the times you're going to want to treat a number as a string. So say you have a variable called num and it's equal to 18. So go ahead and set that variable equal to 18, and now you can do math with it, like num plus 16 equals 34. But if you want to use it in a string, like print and then put Bucky is whatever, we can just leave that. Typos, they're fun. Bucky is, and then we tried to add the number 18 to a string, look what we get. So we can't concatenate a string and add it with a number, even though we want to output the sentence Bucky is 18. So instead of doing that, we need to find a way to change that number into a string, because now what Python is doing is saying, alright, we have some letters and we want to add a number to it. How the F do you add a number to letters? That's not math, that's not English, that's not nothing. So now we have to find a way to convert that 18 into a string. So what we would do is put num, and then we set this equal to not 18 but str, and inside that put 18. And what this does is say, alright, whatever we put for the number variable, take the string 18, not the number 18, Now press enter. Now instead of the value 18 as a number, it sees it as a string or just characters that it can output on a screen. Now if we try print and Bucky is, I'll spell it right this time, and then write num like that, we get Bucky is 18. So that's how you can convert a number to a string, so you can use it to like output stuff to a user and it doesn't give you a bunch of error messages. Another thing that you can do is, say you have something like let's make another variable, num2, move my cursor out of the way, num2 equals, actually let's get like 32 or something. Another thing that we can do that's real quick and that doesn't really use a function that you have to type out is use something called backticks. Now backticks are against our long, hold on, let me gather my thoughts. They're above that little tab key and beside the 1 on your keyboard. It's below the little squiggly line. It's below this thing. And let me show you guys how you guys can convert values or anything to a string using backticks. Alright, here we go. Let's say we got 32 stored in num2. So anytime we try to concatenate that to a string, it's going to give us an error message. So let's go ahead and print my mom is add num2. Now this would give you an error message right here. So since this is a number and this is a string, so how can we convert this to a string without using the string function? All you would have to do is put backticks around it just like that. Now once you press enter, bam. So again, backticks and the string function are two different ways where you can convert anything to a string. And again, this is useful because if you don't, it's going to try to treat this as a number and this is a bunch of letters, and it's going to try to treat this as a math operator, and you can't add numbers to letters. It just doesn't make sense. And one last one I want to talk to you guys about, this REPR function. This it's a little different than the string function, but for now I'm going to just tell you guys that it does the same thing. That anytime you use the string, you can use this one right here and it does the same thing. So again, string, REPR, and backticks are three different ways where you can convert crap to strings using Python. So that's your quick tutorial. This is going to help you understand the next section. So pay attention to this, play around with it a little bit, and I'll see you guys next time. Make sure to subscribe. See you. What's up everyone, it's Bucky and welcome to your 8th Python tutorial. And in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys the difference between raw input and regular input, or just input. Now in the last couple tutorials, or I don't know what tutorial it was, but I showed you guys how you can use input and also raw, come on keyboard, raw input to get information from the user. Now I pretty much just told you guys how to do this, but I didn't tell you guys what the difference was between the two. Well, let me do that right now. Input, the input function right here, it pretty much treats anything in there as an expression or not a string. In raw input, which I guess you guys can kind of tell by what I just said, it pretty much takes whatever the user inputs and treats it as a string. And let me show you guys why this is useful. Say you have a variable called buck and it's equal to the input of, let's say, enter name. Say we have a program that lets the user enter their name and then prints out their name, print buck. Now let me run this, save it. So whenever you use input, basic input like this, it's gonna say enter name Bucky. Whoa, we're getting an error right here, and we're getting this error because it's trying to print out something that's not a string that it can't really print out. So to combat this problem, what Python did is made something called raw input, and what this does is take anything that the user inputs and changes it to a string. And remember, you can't just print out expressions, but you can print out strings, which is just a bunch of characters. So now whenever we run this module or program, let's go ahead and save this. Now it says enter name. My name is Bucky. Bam. So that is how we can use the raw input to get information from the user and convert it to a string. So again, the difference between input and raw input: use input whenever you want to work with expressions, like a number would be fine, that you're going to use like in a math problem. But else, when you're using a string, you're going to always want to use raw input, like whenever you're outputting a name like this or anything back to the user. So that, I know I didn't tell you guys in the last tutorial, but that is the difference between input and raw input. We're going to need to know this in the future tutorials and the future programs that we're going to build. So pay attention to it, learn it, play around with it. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and I will see you next tutorial. What's up guys, it is Bucky, and welcome to your 9th Python tutorial. And in this tutorial I'm going to be talking to you guys about something called sequences. Now what a sequence is pretty much something that lets you store data. And it sounds pretty simple, but it's pretty much like a list. And actually one of the things in Python is called a list, and that's what I'm going to be showing you guys today. And the other main type of sequence I'll probably be talking about pretty soon is called a tuple, or tuple. Some people call it a tuple. I call it a tuple. Either way. But let me show you guys how to make a list so you guys actually know what I'm talking about. Now, to make a list in Python, first of all you have to give it a name, and I'm going to name mine family. Next, you make an equal sign, and in square brackets you add all of your elements of the list. So I'm going to have one called mom, dad's part of the family, bro, and make sure, since these are strings, they're surrounded in single quotes. What else can we add? Sis, and let's add one more, dog. Now once you have your family name and all of your elements are properly formatted, go ahead and hit enter, and your list is now stored in your computer somewhere, doesn't matter. Now another thing that you need to take note of is once you create your list, Python automatically numbers every single element in your list, and they're numbered kind of weird, so listen closely. Unlike the first one being 1 and the second one being 2, what your computer does is, since it loves zeros and ones, it starts all of these out at 0. So mom is 0, dad is 1, bro 2, 3, 4. So even though there are 5 elements in the list, they're numbered 0 through 4. And why is this useful? Because you can access each individual member of your list or element of your list by something called indexing. So if you go ahead and type the name of your list, then type the index number and press enter, it's going to show you that member of your list or that element. So why did sis pop up when we put family 3? Again, this was mom 0, 1, 2, 3. So sis was the third element, so that's how you access that. Now you can do this with any of your elements. And another thing that they did was, once you have lists that were so long, it was kind of difficult for Python or for you to count all the way to the end of the list. So they made it easier to count from the end of the list backwards if you think that you can do that easier. Now, unlike what you would usually think, instead of this being 0, the last element in your list is -1, and then it goes on -2, -3, -4, -5. It can't be -0 because -0 is the same thing as 0, and that would just not make sense. So again, let's go ahead and let me show you an example of that. Family, and let me put -2. Again, it is sis again, and this is why is because dog is -1 once you index from the back of your list, then sis is -2. So that is how you count from the back of your list the reference numbers. And so that is how you make a simple list, and each element in your list is automatically assigned 2 values. One of the values is the values to count forward, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the other value you can reference it by is by counting backwards, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So that is how you do that. And another thing I want to teach you guys before I leave is that strings can also be sequences. So say you have a string like Bucky. These are also automatically numbered 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you want to index something like 3, what's this going to do when we press enter is say, alright, B is 0, U is 1, C is 2, K is 3. Let me go ahead and enter that. That's why it outputs K. So again, not only a list, but also strings you can index to pick out certain values. So that is your quick tutorial on sequences and lists. In the next tutorial, I'm going to be showing you something really cool. So you're going to want to pay attention to that. Again, don't forget to subscribe if you like these tutorials. And I guess that's all I have for this tutorial. So thank you, and I'll see you next time. What's up everyone, it is Bucky and welcome to your 10th Python tutorial. And in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys, or teaching you guys, how to do something called slicing. Now what slicing is pretty much just like it sounds. It lets you slice out or extract certain pieces of a sequence. So that's pretty much it. So let me show you guys. Let me make an example list and I will name it example because yes, that's how creative I am. And let's number it 0 through 9. 0, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Did I mess it up at all? It looks good to me. And now, once you have that, I forgot an equal sign. Go ahead and press enter, and it will create your example list sequence for you, whatever you want to call it. Now, in order to slice out certain pieces of your sequence, here's what you need to do. Type in the name of your list. Then in your square braces, type the first element that you want to include in your extraction or slice. So I want it to begin with 4. Next, add a semicolon. And what you have to do after this is add the number that you want. Here, I'm just going to show you guys what it is. 4 to 8 gives you 4 to 7. So this 4 right here is the first number that you want to include in your extraction, but this 8 right here, that's this, and that's the last number that you don't want to include. So again, this first one is what you include, and this last one is like kind of your, once it gets to that, don't include anymore. So again, if you extract 4 colon 8, it gives you an extraction of 4 through 7. So just keep that in mind. So this presents the problem, alright, what if we want to extract all of these? So would we do 4 through 9? Well, let's see how that is. EXAMPLE and 4 colon 9. Well, this gives you 4 to 8, but we can't do 4 through 10 because 10 is not even part of this list at all. Or is it? So let's go ahead and try that out. So 4 colon 10 and bam. This will give us our end of our list. And that is one way where you can use a slice to extract all the pieces to the end of your list. Just add one more to the rest of your list. So if this list goes to 9, then add 10. But there are a lot easier ways to do this. So for example, you could do it that way. And another thing that you can do is extract negative. Or let me show you guys another problem that we have. If you have a long list and you want to start from backwards and extract this way, could you do something like -5 colon -1? So this should give you all of this, right? Well, let's see. Nope, it still is missing that 9. So how can we kind of expand that -1? EXAMPLE example. Maybe if we go -5 to 0, maybe that'll work. Nope, that's definitely not what we want. So I wish there was a shortcut that we could count backwards but also include the end of the list. Bam, roasted toasted. Bucky, you are a genius. I think I just thought of something. And by thought of something, I mean I learned this and I cheated. How we can do this is something, well, I don't know what it's called, but you pretty much leave your end empty, and what this means is continue to the last element. So you just put example -5, that's the beginning of your range, and the end of your range is empty, and this is going to continue on the entire list and just get all the rest of it. So press enter, and look, it does all the work for you. And you could also make it for the beginning empty and make your end what you want. So let's go ahead and put example. Let's go ahead and put 3 colon, oh wait a minute, we just did that, that's embarrassing, I mean, colon 7, and it will start at the beginning and give you all your list to that checkpoint. So that's how you can do that, and that's how you can slice without knowing the very first value, but only going to the end of whatever you want. You guys really need to play around with this. And another thing I want to teach you guys before I let you guys go, what if you do that and you don't include any values? Well, this is a little shortcut to get your entire list. So again, when you're slicing, you need 2 values. The first one's the first one you want to include. The second number is what you want to go to. You can also do it backwards. And again, if you don't include one of the numbers, then it's just going to go all the way to the end and include everything. Now, I said that was the last thing that I'm going to teach you, but I lied. There's also a third element that you can have, and let me show you guys how this works. Now, the first 2 elements were your starting point and your ending point, but there's also a third colon that you can add and a third number, and this is how many, let's say, how much you want to increment by. So let's say start at 1, end at 7, and I know it's typed to 8, and go by 2s. This is how you would extract every other number. So let's go ahead and we see 1, 3, 5, 7. So as you can see, there's also a third parameter here that you could use. So now we have the starting number, the ending number, and an optional number right here about how much you want to increment by, or how many numbers you're going to skip before you get to the next one. And you could also go from right to left. And to do this, let's get our example list again. We would need the uppermost number, the bottommost number, and if we want to go from right to left, we need a negative number in here. So once we have that, you can see, alright, now we're counting backwards. So this last number right here not only skips every other number, but it also allows you to count backwards in a list or sequence when slicing. And this is going to be real useful, and just so you guys can cheat if you guys ever get lazy, I just want to tell you guys that you can also use the shortcut for this. And what this would do is include everything in your list and also count backwards. So let me do that, and it will give you the same result. So if you want to do your whole list, that's the only reason this would be useful. You don't have to set the parameters. But again, this is a little shortcut to count backwards from your entire list. And I know this can be kind of confusing, slicing, but pretty much just watch this tutorial again, follow along with every example, and by the end of it, I promise you'll be a pro at slicing and be able to extract any information you want from your list. So that is the basics on slicing. I hope you guys learned something. I guess I'll just see you next tutorial. That's all I have to teach you this time. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you next time. What's up guys, it's Bucky and welcome to your 11th Python tutorial. And in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys how to edit sequences. Now, I don't know if I told you guys this in the last tutorial, but I'm going to be teaching you guys something new. You know, it's not important what I'm going to be teaching you, just pay attention. So, in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys that sequences, unlike strings, can also be concatenated. So let's say we have 2 sequences right here. Let me put my cursor on so it actually works. Let's have one, just put some random numbers in there, 6, 4, 5. And you have another sequence right over there with 4, 6, 5. You can concatenate sequences just like you can do whatever else I told you to concatenate, just by using the plus sign. And go ahead and once you press enter, instead of 2 separate sequences, you have one long sequence, or a list in this case. And again, as I said, you can also concatenate strings, which is also kind of a sequence. Bucky plus Roberts. Let's try to concatenate that. Bucky Roberts. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. So you can concatenate list of numbers and also strings of text. But what happens if we try to concatenate a list of numbers and join it with a string of text? Well, there's only one way to find out. Say we have a list 4, 5, 6 and we want to add it to Bucky. Now once we try to concatenate that, we get an error message, and this is because you can't join something that are two different data types. It doesn't know how. It's like, how do you join this with this? I don't know how. Here's an error message, thank you. So you can't do that. You can only concatenate them or join them if they're the same type, and this is useful when you have two smaller lists and you want to join them to one bigger list. It's also useful if you want to store in a variable, so then you don't have to do that every time. But another thing I want to tell you guys how to do is how to multiply a sequence, or, well, that's pretty much it. Now say you have sequence or a string like that. Anytime you multiply this, and you're going to say, alright, how can you multiply this by this? What it does is, it doesn't really multiply it like you think in math, but it kind of does. It just takes this, whatever this is, and repeats it however many times you said multiply by, which I guess that is truly multiplication. So as you can see, we now have 10 Buckies, and this is different than, like, say we wanted to do this with a number. Well, before you would do something like this, 21 times 10. That's not exactly what we wanted, but that's multiplication as well. If you want to repeat 21 10 times, then you have to enclose it as an element in the list. And once you times this by 10, 21, 21, there. So these are two different ways. If you tried this and got this result, or you tried this and got this result, then that is what you were doing wrong. So there's a difference between how to multiply numbers and how to multiply items in a list. One gives you an answer, and another gives you an answer, just in two different ways. So take note of that. And the last thing I want to talk to you guys about in this tutorial is something called membership. Now, there's one little, I don't know if it's a function, but there's something in Python called in. And what in does is check if your specific value you're asking it is in a sequence, therefore the name in. So let's go ahead and make let's have variable name and set it to a string Bucky. Bucky right there. Actually, I'm getting sick of Bucky. Just roast beef. There we go. Now the value name, or the variable, has the value roast beef. So now what are we going to do with roast beef? We can check if certain characters are in roast beef by using all we have to do is this. Put the first character you want to check, then press in, and in is a built-in keyword in Python. What it's going to do is take this character and check if it's in name. So is there a Z in name? Press enter. False. Is there a R in the name roast beef? True, because here's an R right here, but it doesn't find a Z. So that is how you can check if one element is in a big sequence, by using the built-in got a stuffy nose. By using the built-in think about that. Built-in inward. That's kind of interesting to say. So another thing that you can do is apply this. Say you have an entire list of, well, I guess it's an entire list of just a list. So you have mom in your family, and then dad, and then bro for brother. And once you press enter right there, you now have a list created that's stored in family. And just like I search for one letter in a whole word, I can also search for one element in a list. So I can say, alright, is sis in family? Enter. No, sorry, sis is not in family. I guess she wasn't cool enough. What about is mom? Come on, keyboard. Is mom in family? True, because this element is in this sequence. So that's what in does. Check if this element is in this sequence. I can't tell you guys any more simple than that. So that is your quick tutorial on how to join sequences and also how to check if a specific element is in a sequence. So study this tutorial. I hope you guys learned something, and don't forget to check out my next tutorial and make sure to subscribe. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. What's up guys, it is Bucky and welcome to my 12th Python tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be talking to you guys about some more functions that you can do with lists. Now the first function I want to talk about is the length function, and what this is pretty much it gets the length of anything or all the elements in your list or sequence. So let me make a list real quick and I'll put this to use. Let's have let me think. Let's say we have a list called numbers, and let's just type a couple of numbers. 8, 1, 4, 17, let me think randomly, 28, 165, and lastly 7. Booyah. Now actually I want to name this numbers plural, and now we have a list or a sequence called numbers. Now as I said, we can get the length of all the elements in this list by typing a function called length, or len, and this is short for length. So numbers. What you have to do is type the function and then type whatever you want to get the length of and press enter. And as you can see, it says 7, and what this means is there are 7 elements in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is a function, a very simple one that you can use to get the length or number of elements in your list or sequence. Another thing that you can do is get, instead of len, you can type max right there, and that'll give you the maximum number in your list. So tag max numbers, and then it says 165 is the biggest number in your list. And of course, since they made a max function, they also made a min function. Numbers, the minimum number right there is 1, and that's right here, R1. So again, length returns the number of elements, max returns the biggest value, minimum returns the smallest value. And another thing I want to talk to you guys about, another function, is called a list function. And what a list function does is take any string of text, such as Bucky, and it converts it to a list. And this is because there's a lot of different things that you can do to lists that you can't just do to a string function, or excuse me, to a string. So this, once you convert it to a list, it allows you to perform all list functions on it. And some of those list functions I'm going to talk to you guys about right now. Some things that you could do to a list but you couldn't do to a string of text. And this involves using index notation to add a new value to the list. So remember, we have this list of numbers that was 8, 1, 4, 17, 28, 165, and 7. What we can do if we want to change an element in that list is we can simply type numbers again, make it equals, and type 8, 1. We can do all that and give it a whole new kind of order or elements, or we can do something a little easier. And by a little easier, I mean a lot easier. So kind of confused you there. But what we can do is this. Any element we want to change, just reference the element right there. And remember 3, remember it starts with 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So we're saying, alright, that third element, which is actually the fourth, 17, we want to change you to 77. So now put number 3, which is actually the fourth number in your list, equals 77, then press enter. And we're getting an error. And I know why, because I put number instead of numbers. This is so embarrassing. Numbers, had to think about that for a second. 3 equals 77. Guarantee it works. Bam, what I tell you. Now, instead, when you actually type the right name, what you do is when we output this on our screen, it now has changed that value of 17 to 77. So that is how you use to reference it in index notation and then just assign it a new value, and it allows you to type just one specific value instead of having to retype your whole entire list. So that's how you do that. And since you can change values in your list, you can also delete elements in your list, and this is even easier. Say that number we just changed, 77, what if we are looking at our list and be like, yeah, we don't want that anymore? What we can do is put del, and this is another built-in function to delete elements of your list. So del deletes an element or takes it away from the list. So let's go ahead and type numbers. I'm going to type numbers at this time and not number, and we want to delete the third element from the list. So go ahead and hit enter, and it just deleted that element from the list. Don't believe me? Numbers, there we go. Look at this. Our last list was 8, 1, 4, 77, 27, 28, 165, 7. Now our list is 8, 1, 4. Where'd the 77 go? Bam, we deleted it using this little function right here. And now instead of 7 elements, our list only has 6 elements. So that's how you can take away elements out of a list. So again, I showed you guys how to use the length function. I showed you guys how to use max and min to get the biggest and smallest values. I showed you guys how to change a string of text to a list, and how to perform some simple changing elements in a list and also deleting elements from a list. So learn that. It's going to come in useful later on, if not right now. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, check out all my other tutorials and contests, and I will see you next time. What's up guys, welcome to your 13th Python tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be talking to you guys about something called slicing. Now what slicing is it pretty much allows you to put multiple elements in a list or a sequence at the same time without having to do it individually. So let's go ahead and make a list. I'll name mine example, and we'll set it equal to let's change a word into a list using the list function, and might as well put easy host or something like that. Now create our list, and let's see it, make sure we got it right. So now we have 8 characters that say easy host in it. And now when we use slicing, we can replace certain elements in our list for something else. So let me just show you. So get our example list again, and we're gonna edit it this time. So we're gonna edit it from 4 on, and remember, when you put an empty on the right side of the semicolon, or actually that's a regular colon, it means just at the end of it. And so for these 4 characters, we want to replace, what do we want to put? Let's put some more text, and instead of host, let's put baby, and then press enter to create it, and then go ahead and output your list example. And now you can see, instead of easy host, it says easy baby right there. So that is how you can use slicing to replace a portion of your list or sequence. And you don't have to replace the exact same amount. You can also do something like example 4 on again equals, and write something larger than 4 characters, such as I don't know, race cars, something like that, and then go ahead and output it again. And now you can see your what's it called, sequence has more than just 8 characters. So you don't have to just do it the exact same amount. You can do it however much amount you want. Another thing that I want to show you guys is how to add elements in the middle of your list. Just replace them on either end. So go ahead and let's recreate our example, and actually let's make this entire new one. Put 789 or something. So now we have a short little list that's 789. Now if we want to add elements directly to the middle of this list or sequence, what we have to do is go ahead and type the name of our list, type where we want to add the elements. So I'm gonna name mine, add mine pretty much before this one when you use the same numbers. So before the first one, remember it's 0, 0, 1. So if you say, alright, first, this means after the first one. And, well, this is what it means. You'll see why in a little bit. Now you have to put equals, and what do you want to add there? Well, I want to add just 333, just so I can show you guys. So this is saying, alright, I want to add this little string of sequence right before the first element in our list. So go ahead and press enter, then output it, and it says 7 right there, 333, which is this, 89 to the end of it. So that's how you can use slicing to insert a mini sequence into a larger sequence to create an ultimate bigger one. I guess the last thing I want to show you guys is pretty much the opposite of this. How do you get rid of this? And one way is to use the delete function, but you can also use slicing to do this. So let's go ahead and write our example again, and we want to be working with the characters 1, which means include 1. Remember that first one is inclusive, so this is 0, this is 1, and let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, when you put 5 right here, it doesn't include this one, so it's going to do 1 to 4. So what do we want to do with that? I told you guys I would delete them, and all you have to do that is add an empty element like that. And once you press enter and output it, instead of just 7 blank 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 9, it has 7 9. And that's how you can delete elements in a list using slicing. So that's all I have for you this tutorial. Don't forget to check out my next tutorial, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. What's up guys, welcome to your 14th Python tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys about methods. How exciting. So a method is pretty much something you do to an object in computer language. So it's pretty much an action that you do to like a specific object. And say you wanted to punch someone in the face, and this is just best example I got. You'd put what you wanted to do it to. So the first thing you have to write when dealing with objects and method is what you want to do the action to. So I want to do it to your face, and then you write a period, and then you write what do you want to do. I want to punch it, and then of course you have your arguments. So those are your basics for your methods. Again, this first one is called the object, what you want to do, what object you want to perform an action on, and the action is called a method, what you want to do to it. So let's go ahead and get rid of this because I don't really want to punch your face, and let's go ahead and make a simple list so I can show you guys how to use methods. Might as well name it face appropriately, and let's go ahead and set it to any numbers you want. I'll put 21, 18, 30. It can be the ages of someone maybe. Make sure that's a comma and not a period. Then go ahead and create it, make sure we have it right. Next, let me show you guys how to use methods. Now a method is pretty much a built-in function, so you got to know what each one of them do just by the name of them. The first one I'm going to talk to you guys about is something called append, and what append means is add on to the end of. So say we want to add an element onto the end of face. Again, first you type the object, which is face, because face is a list, and now see, it already knows face.append. And what this means is, alright, what do we want to do to face? We want to append an element on it, and this means add an element onto the end of it. And then the argument for this one is, alright, what element do you want to add on? 45. So go ahead and press enter, and bam. As you can see, our list of 3 elements now changed to 4 because we appended an element onto it. And again, that's pretty much just the basics of objects and methods. Again, you have a method, which is action, and all you got to do is say what object you want to apply it to. Sounds a little too easy. So let's go ahead and make a new list. I'm going to name this apples because I feel like talking about apples right now. And let's have something like bear with me here, it's going to take a little bit of time. I love apples now, something like that. And make sure these are like this right here, and this is just for an example I'm about to show you guys. And bam, create it, roasted toasted. Let's make sure we got it. Now this next thing I want to show you guys is the count method. And what the count method does is it takes an object and counts how many times your argument is in that object. So again, get your object, and mine's a list called apples. Press count, and remember count's a built-in function. Now what do we want to count? We can count any of these things, how many times I love apples occurs. So let's count how many times the word apple, or actually apples, occurs. Apples. Press enter. 2. And I'll show you why. Because it took the list apples. I probably shouldn't use the same word in the list, but bear with me here. It took this list and it said, alright, I'm going to search for the word apples. Nope. Nope. 1, 2, nope. So you have 2 occurrences of the word apples. Let me show you guys what happens if you have no results. So say I love apples, apples now. There's no word bow in there. Where do I come up with this stuff? So press enter, and it's going to search all of this, and if it can't find a result, it's going to return 0. So that's how you use the count function. And the last function I want to talk to you guys is something called extend. Now extend is a lot like append, but you can't use append with multiple values. You have to use extend when you have multiple values. So let's go ahead and make 2 little lists. 1, 2, 3. Pretty creative. And for our second list, let's have, anyone gonna guess it? 4, 5, 6. That's what I'm talking about. And that, don't mind this, I just hit the keyboard. And say we wanted to extend, or pretty much add the 2 lists together. The first thing we need to do was what object we're working with. We're working with 1. And what do we want to do? We want to extend onto the end of it. And remember, extend's built-in function or method. And what do we want to extend on the end of it? 2. So let's go ahead and press enter. And now, once we look at 1, we now have a new and improved sequence. So that is how you use an extend. Pretty much how this works, you have your main list right here, and you have the list you want to add on to it right there. And again, object, method, argument. So that is how you use basic methods. And just to recap one more time, you have an object name, what you want to do the method to, then you have the name of the method, and then you have any arguments. So that is your basic method tutorial. Don't forget to check out my next tutorial, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you then. What's up guys, welcome to your 15th Python tutorial. And in the last tutorial I talked to you guys about methods and objects and stuff. In this tutorial I want to cover some methods that I didn't go over that are going to be useful later on. The first one is called index, and what the index method does is pretty much search for the first occurrence of a value and say where in the list it is. So let's go ahead and make a quick saying. You can name your list say, and let's put hey now brown cow, and go ahead and put your little quotes around every word. Make sure I spelled everything right. Brown core, what the WTF? Change that to cow. Now go ahead and press enter, and once we have say, make sure our list is created. So let me show you guys what index does first. Put say index. Again, you have your object, and then you have your method. And the parameter index takes, you have to type in any element that you want to search for in your list. So let's go ahead and search for brown. So, and what it's going to do is, once we have our object, our method, and our parameter that we want to search for brown, it returns 2. And remember, this is 0, 1, 2. So that's how you can search for words or numbers in a given list. Another thing that you can do is insert any elements into a list or sequence. And you can do this by using, of course, the insert method. So have say insert, and then you have 2 parameters. First, where you want to insert it, and second, what you want to insert. So say you want to insert Haas into position 2. This is what you would do. And now do that, press enter, and it says hey now Haas brown cow. Of course it's 0, 1. Your new 2 is Haas, and it kind of just pushed everything over a little bit. And besides that, when you have insert, of course you have to have a way to remove elements from a list too. So that method is pop. So put say dot pop, and by dot I mean period, and the parameters you have for this is what position in the list you want to remove it. So let's say we want to remove, let's remove now. So this is 0, 1, so pop 1. Again, object element parameters, press enter, say, and of course hay, hoss, brown, cow. And another thing that pop does is, unlike delete or anything like that, it actually returns the value to you that you deleted from the list or popped out of it. So that's a little different way where it differs from another or all other types of common deletions. So unless you want to use this value like in a program or something, you would use pop. If not, you would use another deletion method. The second to last one I want to talk to you guys about is remove. And what this does is remove the first occurrence of any word, and of course that would be your parameter. So have your object say list, we want to remove, and get out of here list. What do we want to remove? Let's remove brown. Why not? So let's go ahead and do that, and once we do that, we should have hay, hoss, cow. And again, this is a little different because instead of returning a value like pop, and this is, you would return a value if you want to use this value in a program, it just deletes it from the list and doesn't return it at all. So that's one way remove differs from pop. And the last one I'm going to talk to you guys about is reverse. So say, I'm not even going to tell you guys what this one does, it's pretty self-explanatory. Again, our old list hay, hoss, cow, our new list cow, hoss, hay. Can't figure out what went on there with the keyword reverse? Well, that's a shame. So that is how you use all those methods. In the next tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys some awesome way how to sort. So I would pay attention if I was you, and I would also subscribe if I was you. So thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to teaching you next time. What's up guys, it's Bucky and welcome to your 16th Python tutorial. And in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys the sort method. It's the last method we're going to learn for now, and also about something called tuples, which is like a list but even worse. So the first thing I guess we're going to need to do is create a list. I'm just going to name my new and create any values in it, any amount that aren't in order. So 22, 7, 98, 1. Go ahead and press enter, and now we have a list called new. Now to use the sort function, you need to type in the name or the object and type in sort, and then type in any, or actually empty parameters. And what this is going to do is give you a sorted list. Now it doesn't return it to you, it just sorts it for you. You actually have to call it to return it like that. So again, anytime you want to use a sort function, you press just like any other method, keep calling methods functions, you put the object name, the method name, and empty parameters, and that will sort your list for you. And again, it isn't just lists you can sort, you can also sort what do they call it, strings. So go ahead and press sorted for this. It's a little different, and then in here you can type in the name of a string. Let's type in something like easy hoss, and as you can see, it now, wow, actually easy hoss is almost in alphabetical order. E-A, wow, that's kind of impressive actually. But anyways, back to the point before I was mesmerized. As you can see, capitals first, and then the lower cases are all sorted out, and this is using the sorted function to sort a string. Now enough with the methods, because I taught you guys like 800 methods by now. Now I want to move on to something even more boring than methods, and that's something called tuples. Now a tuple is the exact same thing as a list, but the only difference is it can't be changed. So in order to make a tuple, all you have to do is separate some values with commas. So something like this, and bam, you have a tuple. And an alternative way of writing a tuple is to surround it with what are these, parentheses. So you can have a tuple called Bucky, and we don't have a list called Bucky already, I hope. And you can have it equal to some values, and just like that, and bam, you now get the Bucky tuple. And again, you can't modify or add elements or delete elements from a tuple. it's not like a list. You pretty much, the only thing it's good for is pretty much calling back your values. So now that we made a thing called Bucky 32, 32, 43, 54, the only thing we can really do with this is get our values back. Like Bucky 2, that would still be able to be called 43, 0, 1, 2, 3. So unlike a list where you can change or add elements or delete them or do all kinds of neat stuff with them, the only thing a tuple is really useful for is to call your values back. So it kind of sucks, but I just had to teach you guys because it's a thing in Python, so I thought you guys should know, even though I'd rather not. So again, anytime we use sequences, which we will be using a lot, we're going to be using lists, but I just had to tell you guys. So there's a tuple, and pay attention to your sort methods. We'll be probably using those shortly, but I guess that's all the methods I'm going to be covering right now. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe and make sure to check out my next tutorial. It's going to be quite useful. So again, thank you, and I'll see you then. So guys, welcome to your 17th Python tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be going over some more string stuff, but it's actually some more interesting stuff, so pay attention. So in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys how to format a string first of all. So let me show you guys what that means. It means how you plug in variables into your string, and it's probably a little different than you think, so pay attention. Let's go ahead and get a string named Bucky. Actually, let's change it up a bit. Let's name it Bucky. Sucker, I couldn't think of anything. So let's go ahead and start writing something to put hey there. And anytime, let's go write hey there Bucky, how's your head? But anytime we wanna change one of these things, we're gonna need a variable. And to write variables when working with strings, all you have to do is use the % and then write what type of data it is. So instead of, say we wanted to write a program that says hey there and then your custom name and then how's your and then a custom body part. So instead of Bucky, we would delete that because we don't know what their name is yet, and press %s, and what s means is string. So %s together means alright. You don't know what's going in here yet, but it's going to be a string variable. And instead of head, press %s, and this means alright. Also a % variable. Next, we need two variables. So just put var b or something like that. And now we have to enter two variables. So the first one we'll write is something like Betty. And the second one we'll write is, let me format that right, and how is your foot? So now we have a string with two variables missing from it and another variable, or another list, excuse me, that has two variables. So how do we add these two together? Now to format a string using this variable syntax, we have to write print to print it out on the screen, and then write the name of your string that's missing the variables, and mine is Bucky. After that, use the %, and using the % tells it, alright, we have a string with missing variables. Before the %, we're going to tell you what the string is. After %, we're going to tell you what the variables are. So go ahead and write Bucky %var b, and this means take the variables from here and plug them into here. And now once you press enter, hey there Betty, how's your foot? You can also write something different like var c and change it up a little bit, like hey there tuna, how's your fin? Wow, I'm clever. And now you can print Bucky %, var c, hey there tuna, how's your fin? So again, this is a way you can write a program to like customly greet different people using the values they inputted or something, which I might just show you later if I get ambitious. Another thing that I want to find, or I want to show you guys, is how to find stuff in a string, and this is using the find method. So let's go ahead and make an example called example. And let me just write hey now Bessie, nice chops. And go ahead and create that. And now our example is hey there Bessie, nice chops. Say we wanted to find one of the words in here. What we do is use the find function, and this is a built-in string method. And I use the word function when I should be using method a lot, but just bear with me. So go ahead and type example find, and your parameters to find any of the words in here is just that. So say we want to find Bessie. Go ahead and press enter, and we're gonna get an 8. And if you're saying WTF does 8 mean? Well, here's what it means. It searches all along here until it finds where that string starts. So H is 0, just like your listing array. 1, 2, spaces actually count. So this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and Bessie starts at 8. Again, type in your name of the string, find, and the parameters of whatever you want to find. So chops, let me guess, 15. Oh, 20, I was way off. So again, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way, and chops starts at 20. That's where the C lands. And the last method I want to talk to you guys about is something called join. Now what a join does is pretty much takes two strings and joins them together. So say you have one string says, let's make a separator first, P-E-R-A-T-O-R, make sure I spell it right, and our separator can be something like, let's write Haas. So our separator is Haas. Now our sequence is pretty much our sentence. So let's go ahead and write, actually I think I want to save this for the next tutorial. So in the next tutorial I'm going to be talking to you guys about joins. I'm running out of time now and I want to get in detail with this. So don't forget to check out my next tutorial where I'll be showing you guys how to join, or well, you'll see in the next tutorial. But thank you guys for watching this one. Hopefully you learned how to format strings and also how to find stuff in your string. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. What is up, everybody? Welcome to your 18th Python tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to teach you guys about a couple methods: join, lowercase, and replace. So get ready, put your boots on, and get ready to learn. The first thing I want to be talking to you guys about is join. I told you guys in the last tutorial, I showed you guys how to do this, and what it pretty much does is take a sequence and join it together in a certain way. And a common way to do this is to add a character between every element in the string. So let's go ahead and make a sequence called sequence. I have to spell things out loud a lot, just deal with it. And let's make one like, hey there Bessie Haas. We'll add one more. So now let me convert all these to strings using my famous quote. Press enter, bam. Make sure we got it. Ooh, not bad. Alright, now we have a sequence. Now we can use something that acts like glue to hold everything together. So let me just go ahead and name that glue. And I'm going to use just any word. You can use any character, any word. So now we have a sequence and another variable that's just a string. And how you join these together is first you type in what you want to go in between the string. This is the, well, let me show you. The first thing you would type is glue in this case, or the word you want to go in between each of these elements. The next thing you would type is join. Now this is the built-in method to join. And lastly you would write, alright, what's the string or sequence that you want to join together? And ours is appropriately named sequence, sequence. So now once you press enter, we get hey, again this sequence is hey there Bessie Haas. And oh man, I used Haas twice. I didn't even know. I gotta think of more words. But anyways, glue is Haas. So it goes hey Haas, there Haas, Bessie Haas, Haas Haas. Should have thought that one through. But pretty much it takes your entire sequence and puts Haas in between it. And again, that's what word you want in between it, join, and what sequence you want to join. and that's useful in a lot of different things, and I'll be showing you that later. Another thing I wanted to show you guys is how to take any random string and change it all to lowercase, and this is useful also a lot. So let's put rand str for random string. Now let's just type something on top of my head. I wish I had no sausage. And as you can see, I capitalized pretty much random words and characters in here. Now let me press enter, and now we have a random string that has various capital letters on it. If we want to change all of these to lowercase, all you would need to do is type what you want to change into lowercase, period, lower, and then your parameters would be empty because it doesn't take any arguments. So again, random string dot lower will change it all into lowercase. As you can see, even if the first letter isn't capitalized, it will change both of those letters. So I and H and no, those are all lowercase now. So that's how you do that using the lower function, or excuse me, method. And another thing, the last method I want to talk to you guys about in this tutorial is something called replace. And if you can't guess what it does, I'll give you a hint. It replaces something. So let's go ahead and make a string. I'm gonna name my truth because I don't know, because I'm bored. And let's just say the truth is I love old women. Do I? I'll let you decide. And now we have a string that says I love old women. But say we wanted to use a replace method, what we would do is this. Type in the word truth, type in replace, again replace is the built-in method, and your arguments for this, the first argument is what word do you want to replace. Well, I want to replace women. What do I want to replace it with? Men. And then again, I love old men. WTF? What this does is, you can see, is takes any word from the string and you can use it to replace it for any other word. And this will work in, if you had like I love old women and young women, it would replace both of those women for men. So this is I don't know, I guess you could use it for a dating website or something, but that is how you use the replace function to, again, by function I mean method. So join, lowercase, and replace are some simple methods that you can use for strings. In the next tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys some cooler string methods. So pay attention, play around with this a little bit, and thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you then. What's up everyone, it's Bucky, and welcome to your very first Python tutorial. Now in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys how to download Python, and this is the program that you use to write all your Python code that I'm going to be teaching you from now on. So go ahead, and the first thing that you need to do is go ahead and open up an internet browser. I'm going to open up Firefox, but it doesn't matter what one you open. Then you need to go to www.python.org, not .com, .org. Go ahead and go to that, and you're going to see a link on the left hand side called download. Click that download link. Now depending on when you watch this tutorial, you're going to want to download the most recent Python version, and make sure that you're going to download the Windows installer and not any of these other ones. Go ahead and download Python 2.6. They might have a later version if you're watching this tutorial later, but right now it's Python 2.6.2 Windows installer. So go ahead and click that, and it's going to give you a MSI installer package, and this is just like a wizard. So go ahead and save that file. I already have this program downloaded, so I'm not going to go ahead and save it. But once you save that file, go ahead and double click on it, and it's going to take you through the whole process. So if you ever use the computer, you're going to be able to figure this out. Just keep clicking next and next until you got Python. So after you go and you clicked all those next things, you're going to have Python on your computer. And to get to it, go ahead, it's going to be in your start menu. Go ahead and click all programs, and you're going to have something called Python. Now you're going to have a couple things in here: idle, model, command line, Python manuals, uninstall. the first thing you want to click on, the first thing that we're going to be using is called idle, and this is the Python interface. So go ahead and click this twice, and remember that's idle, the Python GUI, and that stands for graphical user interface. And now this thing is going to pop up, and this is the first thing I'm going to be teaching you guys how to use Python. So just to make sure that this is working right, and I know you guys would be ready to start programming right now, to test it, go ahead and type print, and then go ahead and in double quotes type whatever you want to print on a screen. I'm gonna go with the basics, not do anything new, and go ahead and type hello world. Now after you typed print and in double quotations hello world, no semicolon, go ahead and press enter. And if on the next line it excerpts or outputs hello world, then you know you downloaded it correctly. So that is your very first tutorial in how to download Python. So hopefully you watch my next tutorials, and I'm going to be making a ton of tutorials showing you guys how to program in Python. It's one of my favorite languages. So follow these instructions, get this program, and hopefully I'll see you next tutorial. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. What's up guys, welcome to your 20th Python tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys how to build your first actual program. So finally we're done testing stuff out. I taught you guys all the basics, taught you guys all you need to know. Now we're going to actually be building useful stuff. So the first thing I want to teach you guys is something called the if statement. Now what the if statement does is, in plain terms, it checks if a test is true, a test or condition as they're called. And if it's true, it's going to execute a certain block of code. But if your test is false or it's not true, then it's not going to execute the code at all. And this is how in computer language you can get your computer to do a certain thing if a certain condition is met. But you can get to skip something if another condition is met or if it isn't met. So it's a lot easier just to show you guys, and I'll talk you guys through it if I do. So go ahead and open up your file, new window, and this will bring up your new I don't know what it's called, just as whatever program you use to write Python in. And again, remember you have to save it before you run it, just a little reminder. So once you got that up, you're ready to start writing your actual programs. So let me first get a variable. So let's write something called tuna, and you can set it to equal to anything you want. I'm going to set mine equal to fish. And notice when you press enter in this, it doesn't automatically run because you're actually writing a real Python program right now, not just goofing around. So next I want to tell you guys about the if statement. Now again, the syntax for the if statement is simply if. And after you write if, you want to give Python a test. Now let's go ahead and give the only test we can to see if tuna is equal to fish. So let's go ahead and write tuna, and when you're testing you use two equal signs instead of one. When you use one equal signs, it means you're having a variable and setting it to a value, and we're not getting a variable and setting it to value, we're just testing if it's the value right now. So let's test if that variable is equal to fish. Now after your test, what you have to do in every condition is write a colon, not a semicolon, just a regular colon. Then once you're done with your test in your if statement, go ahead and press enter. Now under your if statement, here's what's going to happen. If this test is true, which it is, tuna is equal to fish, you're going to want to give it a piece of code to execute. So let's go ahead and give it a certain piece of code. Let's give it something real simple. Print a statement, make it single quotes, print this is a fish. Alright, so if tuna equals fish, which it does, we want you to print out this is a fish. Alright. And another thing that I want you guys to take note of before I run this program, as you can see, this little piece of code is indented right here. Whenever you press enter after this sign, it automatically indents. And your indentation is your way of telling Python, alright, whenever we indent, this is the piece of code we want you to execute during our if statement. Anything that's not indented is completely different than the if statement and something else. And this is very important to Python, and you'll be seeing this a lot later on. So let me go ahead and run this block of code, and I'll talk you guys through after I do, I guess. So go ahead and press 5. It's going to give you, F5, and it's going to give you that, and you're going to get this little statement. This is a fish, alright. So this statement was true, and it ran that block of code and printed that out. So as you can see, this is what it printed. And let me tell you guys one more time why this happened. We have a variable tuna and set it equal to fish. We wrote, alright, we're going to give you a test. If tuna is equal to fish, we want you to do something. We want you to print out this statement. This is a fish, alright. But if it's not equal to fish, we don't want you to do anything at all. And let me show you guys what would happen if fish was something else. Say if tuna was equal to bass, what would happen? So go ahead and press F5, save it, and as you can see, when it runs this time, nothing happens. So that's kind of the basics of the if statement. If your test is true, it's going to run this piece of code that's directly indented underneath it. If it's not true, it's going to say, alright, I'm not running this, just move on to the next line and skip it altogether. So again, to summarize this, your if statement takes a your if statement takes a test and tests it. If the test is true, it's going to execute the block of code under it. And if it's not true, it's not going to do anything at all. So again, this syntax is very important, where you say if, test, colon, and don't forget that colon, and also don't forget to indent. And once you remember those simple things, you are ready to write basic if statements. So this is your very first intro to an actual program. So in the next tutorial, I'll be showing you guys how to do something else that's really cool. So don't forget to watch for my next tutorial. So again, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 21st Python tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to be covering else and else if statements. Now, in the last tutorial, I told you guys, alright, an if statement is pretty much a test, and if the test is true, do this, but if it's false, don't do anything. Well, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to execute a piece of code if it's false. So this is called the else syntax, and let me show you guys how this works. Literally the easiest thing you're ever going to learn in your life. Just go ahead and write else, semicolon, then write your test condition. So in this test condition, if fish equals bass, we're going to write, this is a, might as well write bass right there. This is a bass, alright. Else, print, let's go ahead, I don't know what this is. So here's what's going to happen. Fish equals tuna right now. It's going to test if it equals bass, which it doesn't. So it's not going to print this at all. So once it went through this option and saw that this wasn't false, or this wasn't true, it's going to go to this. And this is kind of the default statement. So once it does this and this doesn't execute, you're going to give it another choice. Do this instead. So this is pretty much, if this is true, do this, else do this instead. That's what else is short for. So let's go ahead and press F5, save it, run it, and see what we get. It's going to say, I don't know what this is. So this is from the last tutorial, don't mind that. So it's going to say, I don't know what this is. And let's see why that was. One more time, fish is equal to tuna. We test if it equals the bass right here. If it was equal to bass, it would print this. But it's not equal to bass, so by default it's going to print this. Now let's say you wanted a way to test if fish was equal to something besides bass or tuna or trout or salmon in a bunch of different ways. Well, instead of just having one choice and then a default, we can give it multiple choices. So to do this, you use something called the else if statement, and this is the second easiest thing you're ever about to learn. And the syntax for that is ELIF, and that's short for else if, but you have to type it like that. So what you do is, just like an if statement, you give it another test condition. So instead of saying bass, if fish is equal to salmon, well, not slamming, well, let's put slamming, why not? If fish is equal to slamming, go ahead and put your semicolon and print. I hope I don't get salmonella poisoning. I hope I don't get salmonella poisoning. Good enough. So, and let's give it one more else if, just for fun. ELIF. If fish is equal to, might as well make this one true, tuna. Put your colon. What are we gonna print? Let's put easy there, tuna boat. So here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna test what fish is equal to, which is tuna. It's gonna say, first I'm gonna test it the bass. It's false, so I'm not gonna run this piece of code at all. Next I'm gonna test it to salmon or slammin'. It's false, so I'm not gonna run this piece of code at all. Next I'm gonna test it to tuna. Whoa. Look at what we got here, a true statement. So I'm gonna print this right here. Easy there, tuna boat. So let's see what happens. Press F5 and run it. It says easy there, tuna boat. So pretty much the only condition that was true is this. So the only block of code it ran was this. But if we change this, say spelled that wrong, then it's gonna run through all these options and it's gonna come to your else statement. So change this tuna to something else like trout, and then type F5 and it's gonna say I don't know what this is. And what happened in this case is it ran through all of these. None of these tests, bass, salmon, trout, were true. It was actually tuna, so it went to your default. So again, this is your syntax for your else if, which is pretty much more ifs, and your else, which is pretty much is if all of this is false, then you're going to want to run this. So that is your quick $2 tutorial on the else statement and else if statements in Python. We're going to be using these a lot later on, so get used to it. Practice the syntax and practice the short program, and once you get good at it, you're ready to move on to my next tutorial. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you then. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 20-second Python tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to nest if statements. So the first thing we're going to need is some variables and to build a basic if statement. So let's go ahead and make thing equals animal, and let's go ahead and make animal equals cat. There. Good. Now once we get two variables, doesn't really matter what, we can go ahead and make our if statements. So let's go ahead and put if thing is, remember when you're making if statements, you use two equal sign, test conditions. If thing equals animal colon, and then we're gonna have a block of code right there. And let's just make an else statement real quick. Else print, let's think of something to print real quick. I don't know what this thing is. So we're gonna have if thing equals animal, do a certain block of code, else do print out I don't know what this thing is. Now inside this if statement we could have a certain block of code like a print statement or something like that, or we can have a whole nother if statement, and that's what I'm going to teach you guys how to do today. So inside this if statement, in the first line of code, you put if and have another test condition right there. So if thing equals animal, which it does, and if animal is equal to cat, which it is, we want you to print out this is, probably need a print statement right there, print this is a cat, or there we go, not a car, a cat, there. And now we can have an else statement in here also. Else print, like I don't know what this animal, I don't know what this animal is. So let's go ahead and run this right now and make sure I didn't mess up anything. Press F5, save it. It says this is a cat, and where's my code? Right there. So what it did is thing equals animal and animal equals cat. The first thing it did is test this if right here. If this wasn't an animal, it would go right down here. So let's just change that. Thing equals house. Let me show you guys what would happen. I don't know what this thing is. If this, even though that this is a cat, this code never gets ran if this main outside if condition is false. So again, that is the basics of how you can put one decision, which is this, in a bigger decision, which is this. So to reiterate one more time, you have one main test condition right here. The first thing it checks for if it's an animal. If and only if it is an animal is it going to test if it's a cat or not. If it's not an animal, this code right here that's highlighted, this never gets ran. So and then the default would just go straight to here. So again, that is how you embed an if statement in a larger if statement. And again, or not again, I didn't tell you this yet, but you can even put an if statement in here and in another one and another one, and you can put as many if statements in if statements as you want. But any more than this kind of gets confusing, even though we're probably going to have to do it sometime during these tutorials. But for now, we're going to just stick with a decision, and if that decision is true, then you give it another decision to make. So that's your basics of an if statement and an if statement. So thank you guys for watching. In the next tutorial, I'm probably going to be talking about something else about conditions. I guarantee it's going to be terribly exciting. So stick around. Make sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you then. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 23rd Python tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'm going to talk to you guys about different ways to test stuff. Now, so far, the only test I showed you guys is double equals, to say that one thing is equal to another thing. But there's also different ways you can test, and those include the less than sign, like 9 is less than 7, which would give you false. The greater than sign, and of course, that's just that. You can also do the less than or equal sign, which is like 9 is less than, which is not, or equal to 9. It's not less than, but it is equal to, so it would be true. You can do therefore greater equals to, and something that you guys might not know how the syntax goes is exclamation point equals, and this means it's the opposite of this. Exclamation point equals means not equals to. So is 9 not equal to 3? It's true because it's not equal to 3. What about 9 not equal to 9? So anything besides itself would be true. So those are some different tests besides equals equals that we're going to be using to test numbers, strings, and stuff like that. So I'll repeat it again when I'm testing, but just be aware for now. Another thing that people use a lot but is different is called the is operator. Now, what the is operator is a lot like the double equal sign, but it's a little bit different. Say you have a list like 1 equals 21, 22, 23. Let's create that, and we have list 2, which equals 21, 22, 23. Now if you put 1 is equal to 2, it's going to come out as true because the lists have the exact same value. But if we have 1 is 2, it's going to be false, because the only way an is can be true is if it's the same object. So for example, you have 1 and equals, actually let's get some new variables, 3 and oops, that's a new one, equals 4 equals a list of like 3, 4, 5. If you have 3 is 4, then that would be true. Never mind this, that's a key that I accidentally hit. So the only way an is would be true is if that they are actually the same object like this. Even though this and this have equal value, once you put is, it's not false, because even though they're equal, 1 is not actually 2. They're not actually the same object. And on the subject of weird comparisons, there's also the in we talked about earlier. So say we have a variable called pizza, and set it equal to something called Pizza Hut, and we can test using the in, or let me just show you guys. Say test for s in pizza, and it's going to come across as false because the letter S is not anywhere in the value of pizza, which is Pizza Hut. But if we test it for something like P in pizza, come on keyboard, then it would be true because there is a P in Pizza Hut. So that is just what the in operator means, and that's just a different way where we can use to compare, and we can use it in if statements like let me get my cursor, if P in pizza, and that can actually be a test condition, and then you can run a block of code right here. So that's how you use in and is in test conditions such as like if statements and loops that we're going to be learning later on and stuff like that. So again, those are some different ways to compare, including the is operator and the in operator. So pay attention to those. We'll be using those a little later on. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next tutorial. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to your 24th tutorial in Python, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about something that's going to help you compare. It's a little different than last time, unlike operate. Just pay attention, you'll learn something. So the first thing I want to tell you guys is, besides the numbers, you can also compare strings of words. And when you compare these, they're compared in alphabetical order. So let's go ahead and write dog is less than cat. And as you can see, it comes out false because the word dog comes after cat in the alphabet, and it's not less than. So that is going to come in handy later on, and it's a whole nother world when you can compare strings of text instead of just plain old numbers. And the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is something called an and an or. Now last time I told you guys, if you have an if statement right here and you want to check that decision and make another decision, you can write an if statement inside it, like right here. But there's an easier way to check if two conditions are true at once, and that's to use a keyword called and. And what and does is check if both conditions are met. So let me just show you guys real quick. Let's get an example variable, and I'll make it equal to the string. Actually, I might as well just make it equal to number 5. Now we have a variable example equal to number 5. So if you want to check if example is, let's put it, if example is less than 3, and then we say we want to check that, and in the last tutorial I showed you guys if you want to check it again, just write if example is greater than 10, which I guess less than 3, greater than 10, that wouldn't make sense. So that was how you would do two decisions on the same variable. But let's go ahead and let me show you how to make or just make it compact kinda. If example is greater than 3, so any number greater than 3, and example is less than 10, then we can print number is between 3 and 10. So that is how we can use two different tests in the same line of code, and this helps nesting if statements in certain cases. So this example will only print if this condition is met and this condition is met. If one of these tests fail, then this will never go. So let's go ahead and press enter, and it says number is between 3 and 10. So what if we had one of those test conditions that were false but one was true? So let's go ahead and write if example is greater than 3, which is true, and example is less than 4, which is false. Let me show you guys what would happen. Print X. As you can see, nothing prints, and this is because if only one test condition is true in the and, the piece of code doesn't get printed. Now let's say you wanted a way to not only have both test conditions have to be true for you to print, but only one of the test conditions had to be true in order to output the statement. So let's go ahead and do that, and you do this using, instead of and, you use the or keyword. So let's go ahead and write if example is greater than 3 or example is less than 4. Let's go ahead and print This works. So in the OR keyword, unlike the AND, only one of these has to be true for this to print right here, or this code to be executed. So let's go ahead and press enter, and it says this works. Now if both of these were false, just like the AND, nothing would get printed. But what happens if you use an OR and only one of them has to be true, but both of them are true? Well, let's see. If I think I'm gonna sneeze soon. Oh Lord, bless me, bless me. Anyways, back to basics. If example is greater than 3, or example is less than 10, which is true, and I used a semicolon instead of colon. So let's do that one more time. And that also teaches you guys, never use semicolons when you should use colons. If example is greater than 3, or example is less than 10, colon, what are we going to print? Print, hey now. So in this case, both of these test conditions are true, but we're using an OR statement where only one of them has to be true. So what's it do? It prints it out, hey now. And again, just to recap one last time, an AND, when you use an AND, both the tests have to be true on either side for the code to execute. When you use an OR, this one has to be true, this one has to be true, or both of them can be true, and then your code is executed. And in both cases, an AND, if either one of these are false, or an OR, if both of these are false, then it never gets executed. So that's your basics on I don't know, I guess they're called AND or ORs or something like that, and also comparing strings. So in the next tutorial I'm going to be going over loops, but learn this tutorial, learn how to use the AND and OR, and also how to compare strings. Maybe you do these tests with strings or something. And once you got this down, the basics of this, you're ready to move on to the next tutorial. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I guess I'll see you then. What's up everyone, it's Bucky. Welcome to your 5th Python tutorial. And in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys how to actually make programs that you can actually save and execute and treat them like a regular program. Now the thing that we were using right now, idle, is just the interface, and it's pretty cool for testing out things. But the only problem with this is anytime we build a program and we exit this, it's lost and we can never get it again. So what would be the point in creating Python if we can never save our programs? So now I'm going to show you guys how to do something where you can save your programs and show them to people and execute them anytime you want. So instead of this little thing right here, what we need to do is, if you're running idle, go to File, New Window, and this new window pops up right here. And this is the window that's going to allow you to save and also execute your Python scripts and programs. So before we even save it, we actually need a program. So just go ahead and print something real quick. Print hey now brown cow, and let's go ahead and save this. So go ahead, File, once you get a little program written, Save, and go ahead and save it to somewhere you're gonna remember. Make a name for it, and go ahead and give it a name. Press period, and the extension you want it is py. Now this is very important. This is the most important part of the tutorial, so pay attention. The only thing you can have when saving a Python file is name it and put .py. This is going to save it as a Python file. Next, once you got your py extension, go ahead and press save. Now you can execute it. So go ahead, and once you got your file, there's a couple things that you can do to execute it. Now another thing I want to tell you guys, before you execute your program, you have to save it somewhere. So if you're like, alright, I'm not going to save it, I'm just going to run it, you can't. You gotta save it before you can run it. So there are two different ways. Once you save your file, you can run it. Go ahead and press run, and then you can go ahead and run module. Let's go ahead and do that right now. And as you can see, your little idle pops up and it runs it for you. Another thing that you can do is just press F5 on your keyboard, and same thing. Not too exciting, but just a little tidbit of information. So again, well, let me just move on to the next thing. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more to our program, and instead of this, let's go ahead and set a variable, and let's make it do something useful like x equals raw underscore input. And I'm doing this because I want to show you guys that it can actually be used as a regular program. So let's go ahead and make it input. Let's have something like enter name semicolon, and on the next line go ahead and print out hey, and then it'll print out, put the plus sign and then X. And what this program is going to do is have you enter a name, store an X, and then it's going to print hey and then your name using this. So copy that, and I'm going to show you guys how to do something right now. First thing I want to show you guys is if you try to run this without saving it. So I'm going to go ahead and press run module, and it's going to say I don't think so, Bessie. This must be saved before you can even run it. So go ahead, press OK to save, and then it runs. So that's what happens if you try to run your file without saving it. So you're going to go ahead and enter your name, my name Bucky, press enter, hey Bucky. And this is why creating it in a separate file is useful. Now we get to actually make a regular program instead of just seeing all the code before. And this is actually an application that can be useful to someone else besides ourselves. So that's one thing that you can do with it. Another thing that you can do with this is, let me go ahead and, well, I won't X out here, but as you can see, here's where I saved my file right here on my desktop. So I can treat this as a regular program right now, just saying like it's any other program like Microsoft Word or anything like that. So the way you do this is just double click it like a regular program, and let me double click that, and bam, look at that, we just had a regular program that we created. So let's go ahead and put enter name. Let me put Bucky, and whoa, what just happened? What it did was it executed, but it happened so fast that we couldn't see it. And I'll tell you guys why. Because what this program does is, and this is gonna, I'm not just telling you that you, hold on, let me get my thoughts together. I'm not just telling you guys this for fun. You guys actually gonna need to know this. What this program is doing is it runs this, and then it runs this, and once it gets done running and everything, it's like, alright, I did my job, see ya, I'm leaving. It did exactly what we tell it to, but not what we wanted it to. So what we're going to need to do now, and what we're probably going to need to do for the rest of these tutorials, is add another line of code. And that's raw underscore input. Now in your parameters, we got to give them a prompt. Press enter. And what this is going to do, let's go ahead and remember, save it. And what this is going to do right here, once I put these around, now I gotta save it again. Oh, so much work, so little time. Now what this line of code is going to do is it's going to allow us to actually see the output on our screen and see what we created instead of just running the code and disappearing. So again, this creates the program, and this allows you to actually see what's going on. So now once we click our program and run it, and what an awesome program we built. We're going to sell this baby for millions. It says enter name Bucky, enter. Now it actually shows us what we're doing instead of just running it real quick and disappearing. So now we see our program, we can press enter, exit, wham bam, perfect. A little too easy. So again, to sum up this, again, the graphic interface is pretty cool, but whenever you want to save your programs, you have to make a file, and you do that by putting file, new window, and then this brings up this, and you can make and save permanent programs that you can build and come back to later and later. What this did right here is pretty much allowed you to enter a variable, set it to X. This is just a print statement, And this last line right here is I'm just showing it to you guys because instead of just having a program that runs and disappears, this line we're going to be using it a lot from now on, especially since we have permanent programs now, to actually see what's going on instead of just running the program and disappearing before we can even tell what's going on. So that is how you do that, and that is your quick tutorial on how to save and run programs. If you have any questions, then just leave it in the comment box and I'll try to answer, or hopefully someone else can answer for you if I don't get to it. So again, thank you guys for watching. Follow everything I did, and once you learn how to save and execute programs from your text editor, what I just showed you, you're ready to move on to the next tutorial. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. What's up everybody, welcome to your 26th Python tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to loop through a dictionary and also how to use the break statement to exit a loop. So in the last, well not the last tutorial, but a couple tutorials ago, I showed you guys how to make a dictionary using keys and values. So let's go ahead and make one real quick because we're going to need one. For example, I'm going to make one for ages. So dad equals 42, mom, she can be 48, she can be a little older, and let's make one last one. Say there's someone in your family named Lisa, she can be 7. So let's go ahead and make sure we build it right. We did. Now if you want to loop through the items in this dictionary, what you do is put for item, and remember this isn't a keyword, this is whatever you want to name your variable. And this is going to be set to the variable dad, Lisa, and mom. It's not going to be set to the values right here. It's going to be set to the elements. So let's go ahead and write for items in, of course we need ages because that's what dictionary we're going to refer to. Put your colon and then put print item. So once you do that, it prints out dad, Lisa, mom. So that's the main item, but what if you want the value that it responds to and not only the element? Well, to do that, what you would do is a syntax slightly different. You would put for item in ages, and that would be the same right there because that's where you're going to correspond to. The only thing different is you want to print out the values along with the elements themselves. So print item, and that's going to give you the same thing it did before. And then also we want to print something else, ages in item and square quotes. And what this is going to do is whenever you put the item name inside the dictionary name, that's going to give you the value that the element corresponds to. So we're kind of tricking it into printing out the value as well. So again, this is the value itself, and this is the, this is the element itself, and this is the value that it corresponds to. And I keep saying element instead of keys, but just deal with it. So this is how you get dad 42, Lisa 7, mom 48, and that's how you print out each what's it called? I don't know what the combination of these two things is called, but each of those in your program. Now another thing I want to talk to you guys about is something, how to break out of a loop. Now in the last tutorial I showed you guys how to test a condition, like how a variable is less than 100, and then you can loop through that 100 times. But there's going to come some cases where you're going to want to break a loop after a certain event happens, and not just only after like a desired number of times, like 110 or 1,000. You're going to want to wait for an event and let that be your deciding factor when entering a loop. And while we're on that subject, I told you guys that you can have a test condition like while variable is less than 4, but you can also do a while 1 if you want the loop to go on and on and on forever. So if you do a while 1 and the loop goes on and on forever, we're going to need a way to escape this loop somehow, and that's the break statement. So let's go ahead, and we need a variable somewhere to test the break. So let's write if name equals raw, we'll have the user input the data. Name equals raw input, and just write enter name. And then we're going to have the user input something right here, and that variable is going to be stored in name. So now we want to test that name, and if it is equal to a certain thing, and only if it's equal to a certain thing, we want to break this loop. So let's write if name is equal to let's write quit. If name is equal to quit, break. And what this program is going to do is say, alright, I want to keep going on this loop forever until I encounter a break. Now first I'm going to ask them for their name, and if they give me anything besides quit, I'm going to loop again. But if name is exactly equal to quit, then I'm going to break out of this loop. So let's go ahead and press enter. Enter name, Greg, Tom, Lisa, Bucky, quit. And as you can see, as soon as I typed quit, the program escaped. So what this does is loop forever and ever, and it actually would go forever until it got to quit. And once you get quit, you know you can add this keyword break. And anytime your loops sees break, it's going to know, alright, now it's time to exit the loop. So that is your quick tutorial on how to loop through dictionaries, how to get the keys and values of them both, and also how to use the while loop with infinite loop and how to break out of it. So I hope you guys learn a little something. I don't know what I'm going to teach you in the next tutorial, but it's probably going to be awesome as usual. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you then. What's up everyone, welcome to your 27th Python tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys how to build your very own functions. Now in the last tutorial I showed you guys, or actually in the last couple tutorials, I've been teaching you guys how to use built-in functions. But there's going to come a time where you're going to need to make your own functions. And this is useful because if you want to use the same code over and over again, it's useful to have a function. So the first thing that we need to do before we even create a function is something called define a function. Now we need to define a function because when your Python program comes across the name of your function, it's not going to know what the heck it is. So before you start calling and using your function, you obviously need to create one. And defining a function and creating a function is the exact same thing. So to do this, go ahead and write DEF on your screen, and this means define a function, which also means create a function. Next, give your function a name, and I'm going to name mine what's up. And once you named it, you have to put any parameters you're going to use. So after the name, I'm going to put X, and you'll see why later. And again, this creates it, this names it, and I'm going to use a variable in my function called X, so that's why I have that. Now in your function body, you have to write what instructions you want your function to do. So what do I want this function called what's up to do? Well, the first thing I want it to do is return a value, and this is actually going to be the only thing I want it to do. I'm going to want it to say what's up, and then I'm going to want to write X. So wherever they put in for X, I want it to return what's up and then that name X. And now that's all the function. See, bam, roasted toasted, the function's created. So how do we use this function? Well, whenever we supply a variable X, it's going to return the value what's up in the variable X. So whenever we're writing this in a program, we're going to want to print that out. So hold on a second, I got itch. So now we write print, and you don't have to print it, you can like store it as a variable or anything you want. I'm just going to print this out to show you. And next, how you use your function, you just call it by the function name, what's up, and then inside your parameters put whatever you want to have for X. So I want to have let's put Tony. So let me go ahead and run this, and it says what's up Tony, and let me show you guys what exactly happened here. This is our program right here. It says print what's up Tony. Well, WTF is what's up Tony. Oh, you created a function called what's up. Alright, so whatever parameter this is, I'm going to throw this in for X. So again, that's why I use the parameter. It's like a temporary placeholder for whatever parameter this is. So whatever you put in inside your what's up, it gets called to this one right up here, and it just plugs it in. So again, if you print out something else, print what's up, let me make sure I spell it right, and have something else, noob, what's up noob, it's gonna say, alright, when I use the what's up function, I'm supposed to return what's up plus whatever they put in. So that's what this does. So that's the basics of the function, and you can also have something like a math function and not just a string function. So let's go ahead and create another function called define or create plus 10. And if you can't guess what this function is going to do, yes, it's going to add 10. So instead of returning a name, we want to return whatever they plug in for y. We don't know what it is yet, so we'll just use y plus 10. And now we create that. Now we put print, and let's see, plus 10. I'm just kidding, it says plus 10. Gotcha. And for the parameters, you can put any number you want. So 44. And what this is going to do is take that 44, plug it in for y, and add 10 to it. So let's go ahead and press enter, and it outputs 54. So again, to recap one more time, whenever you create a function, you need to have whatever parameters you're going to take, and then in your return statement, you have to write what you want to do with those parameters or variables. And then once you call your function or use it in your program, this gets treated as that variable, which is y, and it puts that in for y and does whatever you want to do to it. In this case, we added 10 to it. That's why we got 44 plus 10. So those are your basics of functions and how to create a function and how to write instructions for your function. So pay attention to this, practice making your own simple functions, and in the next tutorial, well, I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but it's going to be sweet. So thank you for watching, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What is going on, guys? It's Bucky, and welcome to your 28th Python tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you guys about default parameters in your functions. So a default parameter is pretty much just that. It has a parameter, but instead of you having to enter it, it already has a default value just in case the user forgets to enter it or something like that. So the first thing we're going to need to do is create a function, and I'm going to name mine name, and hopefully name isn't the keyword. So let's have two parameters in our name, a first part of the name and last. And let's go ahead and put a colon after that. And now we have to print out our instructions for the function. So in this function, I just want to print out two strings. And the strings are, of course, going to be what values they take, the first name and the last name. So right now we have a function that prints out the first and last name, and it's called name. So let's see if this works. Name, we have to supply it with two parameters, Bucky, Roberts, don't forget your apostrophes or whatever it's called. And there you go. So this is pretty much a basic function. It takes two parameters, first, which is Bucky, last, which is Roberts, and prints them out right after each other, first then last. But what if we want to have a function that already had default values in it? Say we wanted to populate a database or something, and if you entered a blank value, it would ruin it. So we want to make sure something was in there all the time. What we would need to do is add something called default parameters. And what this does is automatically supply a value even if you don't supply a value in your function. And I'll show you guys. It sounds complicated, but I promise you'll understand by the end. Let's go ahead and remake this function called name. But instead of first, we want to put a value for first right now. So let's go ahead and put first equals Tom already, and last equals Smith. Now let's go ahead and create the same exact function, print %s, modulus, what values is it going to take? Again, the first and the last one, not last e. Now whenever we call our name function, by default, as you can see, you get Tom Smith. But what if you're saying, alright, that deletes the purpose, or defeats the purpose, I mean, how can we enter our name now? Well, you can also use it to override. Say you wanted to enter your name like you did before, Bucky and Roberts. You now have Bucky Roberts. So this is just a safety, which if you don't enter anything, you get a value. But you really want the user to enter a value, and then it spits out your desired result. And you can also mix and match. Say name with parentheses and put only one in here, Bucky, and you get Bucky Smith. And you could also do this, name, and you can put last is equal to Roberts, and you can get Tom Roberts. So again, if the user only enters one or the other or both of the values, you get your desired result. But just in case they don't, you always have a default value right there. So that is how you add defaults in parameters. And like I said, it's most useful when you're writing a program or filling a database, where if you have a null or empty value, it's going to throw everything off. So that is one case where you would use that. So that's your quick tutorial on default parameters and how to use default values, and also how to change one value or the other. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next tutorial. What's up guys, it's Bucky. Welcome to your 29th Python tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to put multiple parameters in a function. Now in the last tutorial I showed you guys how to build functions with a set number of parameters, but there's going to come times, like when you're building a shopping cart or grocery list program, that you don't exactly know how many things the user's going to have. So you need a way to tell Python that I don't know exactly how many things or elements are going to have, but I need you to do a certain thing to them. So to do that, let's go ahead and make a function. Let's call it list for grocery list. And inside, before I would show you just how to add a single thing like that. But if you want to add many things, an unknown amount of things, what you need to do is put an asterisk before it. And what this does, this asterisk does, is tell, alright, whatever you put in for this element, instead of just treating it as a single thing, treat it as a tuple. So let's go ahead and do something to this list, and what we want to do is just print out food. This is a really simple function. So now if we have list and we add an element like apples and call it, as you can see, it doesn't just print out apples, it prints out apples as an element in the tuple. So now using this asterisk we can add many elements to one parameter instead of just writing a whole bunch of different parameters. So let's go ahead and put list, and let's add, I like to do that to get everything out of the way, apples, peaches, and beef. Why not? Hey, where'd my thing go? Alright, now once we press enter, as you can see, we get a tuple of apples, peaches, and beef. And this is a way that you can put these parameters into a tuple, and also it's useful with regular parameters too. So not only can you make a function to treat multiple parameters or an unknown amount, but you can also combine this with regular parameters too. Say you wanted to make a profile for someone that only has like one name or something, but you wanted to get like the ages of all the girls they dated. So let's go ahead and define profile, move my cursor out of the way, and we want one regular parameter called name. And again, this has no asterisks in front of it, and I shouldn't have put those. So since that has no asterisks in front of it, we can only add one element to that. So after that we want a variable element, so let's go ahead and put asterisks and put ages. And now this profile function is going to allow us to enter as many parameters as we want. It's going to treat the first one as name, and every one after that it's going to treat as ages. So let me go ahead and print out, let's go ahead and just print name and then print ages after that. And now we got a profile function, name, and as many parameters after that. So let's go ahead and call it profile. Make sure I spelled it right. Our first parameter, let's go ahead and put Bucky, and then every parameter after that. So this is what we did. Our first parameter is the name, it's going to print the name. Every parameter after this is going to be treated as a tuple or multiple values. So let's go ahead and add some 42, 43, what are these? The girls I dated, 76, I dated a 98-year-old woman before, and a 54, not really, but just for example. And let's go ahead and press enter, and let me show you guys what happens. The first thing it did is treated this as name, and this is because it could only take one parameter, so that's all it took. And next it saw, alright, you have multiple parameters right here, so I'm going to take the rest of these things and treat it as ages. So I'm going to print this out as ages. So that's a way where you can get a function, and instead of just having a known value, or you know how much the user is going to enter, if you don't have something like this where you don't know how many girls they dated, all you have to do is press star, and it says, alright, just treat the rest of them as a tuple, and then you can perform functions on this, and it's a lot easier than trying to deal with the unknown value. So that, my friends, is your quick tutorial on how to use many parameters in your functions and how to convert many of the values in your parameters into a tuple. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. We will be using this later on, so practice it, get used to it. Again, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time. What is going on, guys? Welcome to your 30th Python tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to use parameters to convert it to a dictionary. Now, last time I showed you guys how to take parameters in a function and convert it to a tuple, but tuples can't do a whole lot and dictionaries can. And sometimes you just can't use a tuple where you can use a dictionary, and vice versa. So in the last tutorial, I showed you guys how to use an asterisk and how to make that parameters a tuple. So in this tutorial, let me build a sample shopping cart, and instead of one asterisk, you actually use two to convert it to a dictionary. So let's go ahead and put some items in there. Since you don't know how many yet, it doesn't matter. All you have to do is put two asterisks, or asterisks, I don't know how you say it, and let Python do the work for you. So all we want to do is print out items, and now we got a function called cart, and any items we put in the cart, it gets converted to a dictionary. So again, let's go ahead and put our cart, and you don't have a single item each. A dictionary, remember, it has an item and a value, so that's what you need for each parameter. So instead of just putting apples, you need to put apples equals 4, because that's how many apples you want. And in your dictionary, this gets treated as the item, and this gets treated as the value. So go ahead and put peaches equals 6, and beef equals 60. We're hungry this time. So now once you go ahead and press enter, it should print out a dictionary that gives you the values, the items and the values for each one in dictionary format. So that is how you can use double asterisks or asterisks in your function parameter to get a a dictionary instead of a tuple. So again, I showed you guys that you can combine a tuple with ordinary parameter types in the last one, but you can also combine a tuple, ordinary parameter types, and a dictionary as well. So say you wanted to build let's say, what can we build? We can define a profile, and let's see, this isn't going to make a whole lot of sense, but let's say you wanted someone's first name and last name, which are ordinary parameter types. You also wanted the ages of the girls they dated, and also what they want to eat. I know, not the very most useful thing, but trust me, it'll show you the example. So the first thing you want is a first name and last name. Those are only going to take one parameter each. As you can see, there are no asterisks on these ones. The next thing we want is a tuple of all the girls they dated. This only takes one argument, so that's ages, and again, with so asterisks, you can have as many as you want. And after this, you want items that they want to eat. I don't know what this would be useful for. Maybe it won't be useful for anything now that I'm thinking of it, but trust me, it'll show you guys what I need to show you. So let's go ahead and print first and last name, print the ages, and also print the items that they want to eat. And now when we call our function, we need to enter an unlimited number of information. The first thing we need to do is enter our first name, which is Bucky, our last name, which is Roberts, or at least that's mine, and now this will take up the first two parameters since they're a set value of 1. first and last. Now the numbers you enter after this is the ages. So let's go ahead and enter 32, 40, whatever. Just gonna missed one right here, 76. So again, if you're wondering, alright, how does your computer, I know it tells this because it's a single value, and then it automatically goes to this because it's a tuple, but how does it know when the tuple ends and the dictionary begins? Well, this is due to its built-in syntax of that equal sign. So let's go ahead and put bacon equals 4, and once it sees you're using an equal sign, it says, alright, this equal sign can't be used in a tuple, so it must be used in a dictionary. So these I'm throwing in for the first two. Since they were a set value, you can only enter 1 for each. These are going to be the tuple since they don't have an equal sign, and this does have an equal sign, so it must be dictionary. So bacon equals 4, sausage equals 64, and that's good enough for now. Let's go ahead and press enter, and as you can see, when it printed out the first and last name, it saw the first two parameters. When it printed out the tuple, it saw all the ones that weren't equal to each other or didn't have an equal sign in it. And again, the syntax, the double stars for the items, it saw it as a dictionary, and anytime you're using a dictionary in your parameters, you need the equal sign. So that is how it knew that this was a dictionary and how to convert it to dictionary. So a lot of the times it's going to be useful to split these things up, and a lot of times it's actually going to be useful to throw them together. So that is how you use one function with a bunch of different parameter types, since a regular parameter type, a tuple parameter, and also a dictionary parameter. So that is how you can combine them all in one function. It seems confusing now, and we probably won't be doing anything this complex in the future, but I had to show you guys that it was able to combine them all. So hopefully you understand this at least a little bit. If you don't worry, I'll clear things up for you soon enough. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure to check out my next tutorial in Python, and I will see you then. What's going on, everyone? It's Bucky. Welcome to your 31st Python tutorial. And in the last tutorial I showed you guys how to create a tuple or dictionary using parameters, but you can also do something else that's kind of neat, and you can gather information from tuples and dictionaries and use that information as your parameters. So instead of creating tuples and dictionaries, you can use pre-existing ones as your parameters as well. So let's go ahead and let me just show you guys what this means, because it's the easiest way. Let's go ahead and create an example. So define an example function that's going to take 3 parameters, a, b, and c. And we want this, let's just have return a plus b times c or something like that. No, not ACC, a plus b times c. Good enough. Alright, now once that's created, what do we want to do? So that takes 3 parameters and returns some math function. Doesn't really matter what the math function is. Then say instead of creating a tuple, you already have a tuple named tuna. And let's throw some numbers in there, 5, 7, 3, and go ahead and press enter to create that. Now what you can do is you can throw this tuple inside this as the parameters. So let's go ahead and write example, and you just don't write tuna here. Anytime you use a tuple, you have to write that little star before. And remember, star means you're working with the tuple, 2 stars means you're working with the dictionary. Since this is a tuple, this will do just fine. So go ahead and press enter, and it takes the numbers from tuna, 5 plus 7 times 3, and that equals 26. So that is how you can use a tuple and throw in your parameters for a function. So next I'm going to show you guys how to do this with a dictionary, and this is a little different, but it's kind of the same, so pay attention. First we want to define something we can use with a dictionary, and it's not going to be a math function. So let's go ahead and name this example 2, just so we don't get anyone confused. And let's go ahead and have it take one parameter called this. And I forgot a semicolon, so let's go ahead and define example 2, and let's not forget our semicolon next time. This and colon, and let's go ahead and just print it out. So print this. So once we have that function created, example 2, we need a dictionary because that's what I'm going to teach you guys. So let's go ahead and make a dictionary called bacon. You can name yours whatever you want. And let me populate this. Mom, 32, and Dad, 54. Let's go. And now we have a function that takes one parameter, a dictionary parameter, and we also have a dictionary right here. So if you're going to guess what I'm going to do next, then well, just pay attention anyways. So we have example 2, which takes one dictionary parameter. We also have a dictionary called bacon, and remember, when you're using a dictionary, use 2 asterisks. So let's go ahead and throw bacon, this dictionary, into this function example and see what happens. It runs through the function, which is print this, and prints the dictionary, which is bacon. So this is kind of a simple example, but I just wanted to show you guys that you can actually use tuples in dictionaries not only when you create a function, but you can also use them as the parameters inside a function. And that's useful when you're gathering data from an outside source and you want to do something to it, like alter it in a certain way and also print it out to your users. So that is how you do that, gather information from tuples in dictionaries. So I hope you guys learn how to do that. So thank you guys for watching this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. What's up, guys? It's Bucky. Welcome to your 32nd, I think, tutorial in Python. In this tutorial, I'm going to be getting into objects. Now, you hear a lot about object-oriented programming, and Python is actually one of those programming languages. So it's kind of a confusing topic, so I'm going to take it slow and try to explain to you guys exactly what it is, because all the other tutorials on the internet kind of suck at it. So pretty much, an object is a thing that contains data and also has methods. Now, a method in an object is pretty much just like a function, but you call it a method when it's inside an object, and it also uses data from that exact same object. Now, object is a thing that has its built-in attributes to describe it. So, for example, if I was an object, Bucky, you would probably describe me as sexy, like that. So it would be object period attribute to describe it. So Bucky is the object period attribute to describe it. Bucky period man, Bucky period smart. I know, I'm full of myself, but and besides attributes to go along with objects, objects also have something called methods, as I showed you before, and these are just like functions, except they're in the objects and they use the object's data. So what they would do is have something like this. If Bucky was the object, he would have a method called shave. What else can this object do? Bucky works with your empty parameters, and also Bucky reads. So that is how you would use a method on an object. But before you do any of this stuff, you need to build something called a class. Now what a class does is pretty much your blueprint for your object, and you need to build a class before you can even think about building objects. And it's kind of what your object is based on. So here's how you make a class. To make a class, and this is the very first thing you do when building objects, you go ahead and type class. This tells Python that you're going to be building a class. Next, make your class name. I'm going to name mine example class. Now after you get your class name, put a semicolon, or excuse me, colon, and go ahead and press enter. Now in your class, you're going to have a bunch of different types of data. The first thing I'm going to have is a variable, and I'm going to have eyes. And this is going to pretty much describe your class and going to be overall use for your class. So my eyes are blue, so I'll put a variable in there called eyes blue. Age equals 22. And you can have a bunch of different variables to describe whatever class you're building. Of course, I'm building one that resembles me. Actually, my eyes are brown, but that's not important. Now, after you do this, you can also have something called methods in your class. And to make a method, it's the exact same thing as making a function. So let's go ahead and do that. So you put define or to create. Let's just make something called this method. And the difference between making a method inside a class and making a function outside it is the methods in your class. The first one has to be self as the first parameter. So let's go ahead and I'll tell you why that is later. But after you create your method and name it, make sure that first parameter is self. Now let me go ahead and press enter and let's make this method do something. Let's return, hey, this method, I typed it right, worked. So now we have a method. So inside our class we have one variable that has a string, one variable that has a number, and a method that just returns, hey, this method works. Now let's go ahead and press enter and create our class. Now if you type example class, you can get a weird message and just showed you that your class was actually created. Now I showed you guys how to build a class, which is pretty much like the blueprint. Now I need to teach you guys how to make an object. And you need an object in order to get the data from your class. So let's go ahead and make an example object, and I'll name mine example object. You can name yours anything you want. And you need to set it equal to the class with empty parameters. So I'm going to put mine example class and have mine empty parameters. Now I just created an object which refers to this blueprint right here. And now with your object you can get all this data inside of it. So you can go ahead and press example object period eyes, and that's how you refer to the variables inside your class or object. And once you press this, you're able to access all the information inside your object or class. So go ahead and press example object. Let's go ahead and get the age 22, and you can also call your methods that you just made with your object using, well, it's probably the same syntax you think. So example object, again, you need your object to access any of the information, period, what's it called, this method, and remember we're referring to this one up here, and go ahead and get rid of that, add empty parameters, and it says, hey, this method worked. So again, that's how you build a class. And again, you need to make an object to refer to your class, because you can build different things to refer to the same class. So that's why, or excuse me, you can build many objects to refer to the same class. So we need to build a specific object, and you'll see why later on, but you just need to do that. And then once you get your object built, you can start referring to the data elements inside your class. So again, you have to put a period and then what element or item you want to refer to. So if you want to refer to the age variable, you have to put your object and then age. And again, if you want to refer to a method, you just put your name of your object and then your method after that. So that's how you can call all your items out from your class. So that's your basics of object-oriented programming. In the next couple tutorials, I'm going to be going in depth and clearing all these things up for you. But for now, I just wanted to give you guys a quick $2 tour overview of what object-oriented programming looks like in Python. So hopefully you stayed with me a little bit. Hopefully you understand this, and in the next couple tutorials, like I said, I'll be clearing it up. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next tutorial. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to your 33rd Python tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be going over a little bit of classes and also something called self. Now the first thing we need to do is create a class, so let's do it. Again, you need the keyword class, and you can name your class anything you want. I'm going to name my class name just to show you guys where the name of class goes. And again, as I told you, you can create functions which are called methods inside your class. And you create it just like you create a function. You have to define it or create it first. I'm going to name my first one create name, since I'm just gonna, well, I'll show you guys what it does later. But again, what I want to stress is every parameter in your methods inside your class has to take the first parameter of self, and then it could take any parameters after that. This one takes one more called name, and you'll see why later. And just to step in the future a little bit, anytime I write self, it's just a temporary placeholder for the object. So if you have an object name apples, then whenever you call your object, it's going to throw apples in here instead of self. So let me go ahead and I'll say that again at a later date and it'll make sense. So self.name, which will be your object's name, equals name. And let's go ahead and create another method. Let's go ahead and display name for one of them. And I just want this to output the name of our whatever we give it later. So I just want it to return self name. Again, these are really simple methods. The last one I want to make is just a saying, and you can name yours any one you want. I'm just using it. I'm just making mine easy so you can see what's going on. And my saying is just going to print out a saying. It's going to be hello some variable, and that variable is of course going to be self name, because that's what we're learning today. And you can go ahead and check if your class was created correctly by just putting in class name, and you should get a weird message right here. It says where it's stored in memory. So now we created a class, which is pretty much a blueprint. Now after we create a class, in order to use these methods, we need to create objects to use them. So let's go ahead and create a couple objects. And just to show you guys that you can create many objects from the same blueprint or class, let me just do that. So first, class name with empty parameters. Again, once you create an object, you have to name your object. I name mine first. You can name yours anything you want, and then put what class you want to get the object from, and put empty parameters. And let me create a second one just to show you guys you can have more than one object per class. I'm gonna do the same thing. We only have one class, so no surprise there. So now we have two objects. We have first and second. So anytime you create an object, you can use any of the methods inside that class with the object. So if you want to use one of the methods, all you need to do is this: write the object you want to use first, and then write the method name. So our first one we had was create name with our parameters of we need self and name. Now self we don't need to put anything for because it refers to the object itself, which is first. But we do need a name since Python doesn't know it yet, and I'm going to name mine Bucky. So now what Python did is said, alright, I'm going to take first dot Bucky, and it's going to be equal to Bucky. Now let's create one for second, just so I can show you guys that it can be different. Second dot create name, and our parameters can be something like Tony. So what this is doing is using this method right here and plugging in the parameters Bucky for name. So now anytime we want to, let's say, display our name in this function, what it's going to do is say, alright, well, let me just show you guys. So let's go ahead and write first, since we want to use our first object, which we created Bucky, and put period, and then put display name, and then put empty parameters, and go ahead and press enter, and as you can see, it gives us Bucky. And let me show you guys what happened here. The function or the method display name just outputted self name, which was Bucky. And let me just do saying. Maybe it's a little easier if I do that one. So let's go ahead and use our first object and saying and empty parameters, and it says hello Bucky. So you guys can see clearly what this one does. For self, it used Bucky, it used first. What it did was print hello and then this variable self name, and it knows for self what one you're using because of this. Whatever self is before the period is whatever your object is before the period, and whatever the name is this what we made up here when we created our name. So again, self in all of these methods, self, 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 that pretty much is, or not pretty much is, a temporary placeholder for the object itself. So once you create an object named first, this self gets switched to first, 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 And so when he says print hello self name, it says, alright, do I print second name? No. Print first name, which was in this case Bucky, and we did that using this right here. So again, first takes the place of self, and it just does this so you can create many or multiple objects from the same class. So again, to recap one more time, we created kind of a blueprint using methods, and we put self because we didn't know what the object was going to be named yet, so we just named it self. Now after we name self, we can fill it in by creating an object. Once we created an object, it takes self and replaces it with an object name. So if you put self name, let's go ahead and see self name equals name. If we put first name, it would be Bucky, because the object and name of first is Bucky. And I know this is kind of confusing now, but to the summary of this tutorial pretty much is self is a placeholder for the object, and that's all you got to remember in this tutorial. I'm sorry for making you guys suffer through all that, but in this tutorial all you have to remember is self is a temporary placeholder for the object name. So hopefully you guys learn a little something on the way about how to create methods or something like that, but I'll promise I'll be clearing this up for you in the next couple tutorials. So again, I apologize for the confusion, but I will make this clear in the next couple tutorials. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. What's up guys, welcome to your 34th Python tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be talking about subclasses and superclasses. And this is kind of a way of how you can use one class to inherit all the traits of another class. And if you work with anything like CSS before, then you probably know a little bit about parent and child and inheritance and stuff like that. But well, let's just go ahead and get started. The first thing we need to do is make a class, and I promise by the end of this tutorial you will know what subclasses and superclasses are. So let's go ahead and make a class, and this is going to be the parent class. So I'm going to name mine parent class. Go figure. And let's put a couple variables in here. var1 equals let's put var1. Just make it a string, and let's go ahead and make another one just for fun. I don't know if we're going to use it or not, but say variable2. Now we have a class with parent class, it's called, and we have two variables in it. But what if we wanted to go ahead and make another class just like this, but we didn't want to type everything out, aka laziness? Well, you can do this. Just make a class, go ahead and name it child class, because it's going to inherit all the characteristics of parent class without having to type anything out. Now after you write the name of your class, if you wanted to inherit all the characteristics of this class, all you have to do is type the class you want to inherit, ARENT, make sure I'm not typing anything wrong. All you have to do is type what class traits you want to inherit as parameters in this class. So now in our instruction, all you have to do is put pass. In case you guys don't know, pass means don't do anything. It's pretty much just a blank. I know that it's weird that they would have something like that in programming, but they do. So now we have a parent class with all these variables and a child class with all of these variables. And you can make as many classes as you want and inherit it from a class to get all of their what's it called, like information. So now let me show you guys how this actually works. We need a couple objects to access those variables. So we need parent object, and set it equal to parent class with empty parameters. And now we can go ahead and press enter, and now we can use our parent object to access the variables. So I shouldn't have typed such long object names, but parent objects var1 equals var1. Now this was expected because we used the parent class to access its own variable, and it printed out var1. But we didn't write these two variables in child, so you think it will access the variables the same? Well, let's find out. Let's go ahead and make a child object and make it equal to child class, and put some empty parameters right there. And now we made an object that can access the variables as well. So let's go ahead and put child object dot var1 and see what we get. var1. Let's see if it works with var2 just for fun. var2, I am var2. And as you can see, this is a different way where you can inherit all the traits of a class just by putting it in the parameters. And this is useful when you want to copy an entire class, but you don't want to have to type every single variable and method in it. So that's how you can copy an entire class, and they name it child and parent or subclass and superclass because this inherits the traits of a bigger one. So that is your quick tutorial on parents and child classes, also called subclasses and superclasses by some people. So that's your quick tutorial on how you can use one class to inherit all the traits of another class and also call the variables. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned a little something here, and I look forward to teaching you something in the next tutorial. So don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you then. What is going on, guys? Welcome to your 35th Python tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to overwrite variables on a subclass. Now in the last tutorial I told you guys how to make subclasses and superclasses, also called parent and child classes, but I showed you guys what to do if you wanted a child class to inherit all the traits of the parent class. But what if you wanted it to only inherit some of the traits? Well, here's what you do. First we need a class, and let's call it parent. And in this, let's just have a couple variables. Let's put var1 equals bacon, and var2, which stands for variable 2 in case you guys can figure that out, stands for sausage. Ooh, not bad. Next, let's go ahead and make another child class. Now what we want this child class to do is take some of the variables in parent but also overwrite some of them. So we need a class called child, and we need it to inherit the traits of parent. Now we want to keep variable 1 the same, so we leave that as bacon. But for variable 2, we want to put var2 equals toast. So what we have done is overwritten variable 2 in child, where in child class variable 1 equals bacon, but instead of variable 2 equaling sausages, it equals toast instead. So let me prove this to you guys. So let's go pob for parent object and have this equal to parent, and let's go put cob for child object and make this equal to child class. Now let's access some variables. With pob, which is parent object, let's go ahead and put var1, which is bacon as expected. Now let's go ahead and access variable 2, which should be sausage. Now in child, which is what I put for that, cob, var1, as you can see we changed to bacon, and var2, actually we didn't change it, that's the one it inherited, but var2 we should have overwritten sausage and got toast. So let's see, cob.var2 equals toast. So this is how you can inherit the traits from a parent but overwrite some of the variables. And this is good if you have one huge class where you want to use this big template, but you only want to change a few things in it. You can overwrite a few variables but keep the rest of the variables or methods or whatever may be in that class. So that's your quick tutorial on how to overwrite variables in a subclass, while keeping all the other traits of the parent class. And again, I use child and parent and sub and super kind of alongside each other. But that's your quick tutorial on how to do that. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned a little something. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's going on, guys? Welcome to your 36th Python tutorial. And in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to make a subclass with multiple parent classes. So if we want to make a subclass with multiple, WTF is this? Get out of the way, Haas. If we want to make a subclass with multiple parent classes, we first need multiple parent classes. So let's go ahead and make a class called mom. She can be a parent. And let's go ahead and make a couple variables in her. var1 equals, hey, I'm mom. And that's good enough for you, mom. Next, let's go ahead and make a class called dad and make variable 2. Make sure this is a different variable that was inside class mom. In variable 2 we'll put Hey there, son. I'm dead. Hey, dad. Same thing. Doesn't matter. I'm a dad. Now, let's go ahead and make a class called child. Getting ahead of myself here. Class, child. And now, if you want to inherit multiple traits from different classes, all you have to do is type in the class names right there. Mom, dad. And as your argument, or not your argument, whatever this is called in here, all you have to do is press pass. And what pass means is do nothing, because we don't want it to do anything. We can actually have another variable, and we want var3, and have it equal to I'm a new variable. And I know I typed everything wrong in this entire tutorial, but just bear with me here. And once you have this, your child class now inherited all the variables from mom and dad. So let's go ahead and make a child object. So child object, shouldn't have made it that long, but too late now, equals child class. And let's go ahead, and now once we have an object, we can access all the variables from any of these classes, mom, dad, or the child class itself. So let's go ahead and child object dot var1 equals hi, I'm mom. So what it did is go into this class and says, alright, I'm inheriting all the variables of this. So even though we're using object in this class, we can still get the variables in this. And this works for var2 as well, which was in the dad class originally. So what was it? Child object var2. So even though you don't exactly write the variables in the child class itself, you can use multiple classes, or what they're called superclasses, and the smaller one where what inherits the traits is called a subclasses, and these are also called parents and child, even though I wrote mom and dad and those are actual parents. Funny how that works. So that is how you can use a class to inherit all the properties of a parent class. So this just saves you a bunch of typing if like the mom class and the dad class had a bunch of different variables that you wanted to use, but you didn't want to type them all in the child class. And like usual, you can also use the variables that are in the child class itself. So again, that is how you can use the different items in either classes just by adding the name of the class in your parameter. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you learned a little bit about how to get subclasses with multiple parents. And if you have any questions, you can just send me a message. Other ways, or I guess that's all for now. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next tutorial. What's up, everyone? Welcome to your 37th Python tutorial, and this one is on constructors. Now, before I begin, let me tell you guys what a constructor is. Whenever you first create an object, you usually need to call the methods in order to use them. But a constructor is whenever you first create an object, those methods are automatically called, so whatever is the instruction inside the method automatically gets done. So let me go ahead and show you guys create a regular method real quick. I'll name it swine in favor of the swine flu epidemic. And let's make a method called apples, and of course we need self in the first parameter, and this one will print out just the word beef pie. You can have print out whatever you want. And usually when you create an object and set it equal to the class like swine, if you want to use any of these methods in here, after you create your object, you have to put the object name and then the method name, and then it will perform any action in the method. But a constructor is a little different. This is just a basic method and object right here. What we want to do is not have to do this, call the method. We want it to automatically go through the instructions as soon as we create the object. And this is useful in a lot of things that I'll probably be teaching in next tutorial. But let's go ahead and let me show you guys how to do that. Go ahead and make a new class. And in this class, we want to make a method, but we want this method to initialize, or pretty much do its stuff, whatever it needs to do, as soon as you create it. So this has a special name, and you can't change this name. This is built into Python. Do underscore underscore init, and this stands for initialization or initialization. There you go. and of course underscore underscore self. And again, these are not these are two underscores. I know it looks like one because they don't have spaces in between them, but those are actually two. So now we have a class, and the name of this, or excuse me, we have a method, and the name of this method is underscore underscore init underscore underscore. And whatever we put in here is gonna do, or is gonna happen as soon as we create the object. So let's print out something like, this is a constructor, and let's go ahead and print out something else just to show you guys that it's more than one thing. This also prints out. So now when we create that, as you can see in the last one, in our regular one, when we created an object, nothing happened. But this time, let's create new object and set it equal to, yep, the name of this class is new. As you can see, as soon as I create this object, it prints out everything in this initialization method. And this is because the first thing it does is look to see if this is a method in the class. And if it is, it does all of this before you even have to call it. And this is going to be useful in a couple of things that you wouldn't understand yet, but I will be teaching in the next couple tutorials. So just to recap one more time, a constructor is pretty much a special method in the class in which you don't have to call, and as soon as you create your object, it automatically executes every action in here. And those include setting variables equal to one another and stuff like that. So if you want to create one of these, instead of naming it whatever name you want, you have to name it underscore underscore init underscore underscore. And this tells Python, alright, whenever we create an object from this class, do this first without me even having to tell you. And again, these are called constructors. So that's your quick tutorial on constructors and how to use them, and I'll show you why they're useful in the next tutorial, I hope. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up everybody, welcome to your 38th Python tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to import modules. Now before I tell you guys even what that means, when you're working in idle, like right here, anytime you quit idle, all of your variables and functions that you made in idle get lost. So it would also be useful, instead of just losing all your variables and functions, to save them. And it's also useful in case you like write a function and you want to use it in a lot of programs and you don't want to have to rewrite it a bunch of times. You can make something called a module, and it will save all your variables and functions for you, and you can just import it anytime you're using another program or idle such as this. So to do this, go ahead and in your idle, go ahead and put File, New Window, and this new window is going to pop up right here. Now in this window, we're going to create some modules, and these modules are going to hold things that we want to keep, but you need to do this a specific way, so pay attention. The first thing that we're going to want to do is go ahead and create a quick module called test mod. You can name yours anything you want. Just have empty parameters. This is just going to be a simple one, and let's just print out this baby worked. And now once you have a test module, just put anything in there. We just need something to test it. A simple print statement will work fine. What you need to do is save it, put save as, and in your directory, which is Python 26 or whatever version you're working with, make sure you don't save it anywhere else, because when Python looks for these modules, it's only going to look in specific locations, and this is one of the locations it looks at. Go ahead and save it, and remember this name. I'm going to save mine as swine flu because that's what's in the news today. .py, and again, this name and the py extension are both very important, but more so you have to remember the name more than anything, and I'll show you why later. So go ahead and save it as some name, then py, then press save. Now we have a module named swineflu.py. You can see the name over my cursor right here, and now we can import this module into whatever program we're working with. So go ahead and open idle right here. Let me make it so you both can see. Right there. Good enough. Actually, there we go. Now in your idle, you can now import that swine flu module, and you do it like this: import, and then you put whatever name of the module you just created, and that's why the name was important. But make sure not to put that py extension. That's just so Python can find it. So go ahead and import whatever the name of the file, and again the file name is the py. Actually, the module name is actually the file name minus the py, so that's how you can remember it. Now go ahead and press enter, and you just imported all of your modules in your swine flu file. Now let's go ahead and see if it worked. Now once you want to call a module, you need an object to call, and the object is actually the name of whatever the file you imported. So instead of having to create an object and set it equal to your modules, all you have to do is write the name of the file, which was swine flu, and then write whatever module you want to call. So mine was named, what was mine named? Actually, test mod. So you put swine flu test mod, I almost forgot it already, and go ahead and press enter, and that's how you use, or more so, however you store modules in an outside file, and you can just import them and call them whenever you want. And as you can see, if you made like a bunch of functions and variables and you want to use it over and over again, it'll be a pain in the butt to just keep typing it over and over again in every program you wrote. So this is how you can import different modules and how to create it from a file. Now one last thing I want to stress: once you import swine flu one time, you can't import it again, since, well, it would just be stupid and it would just confuse Python. So let me show you guys something. Say we find out we wanted this to actually say this baby is fat or something. So what we would do is go ahead, and you would think that what you would do is go ahead, this baby is fat. Now go ahead and press save. We save this module. Now once we imported it again, import swine flu, and then go ahead swine flu dot test mod. It still says this baby worked. That's because you can only import your module one time. Now if you wanted this to actually show up that this baby is fat like it was before, what you would need to do is close this all together, go open up a new idle, and go ahead and push import swine flu, and then now once you imported this again, this imports the new file. Then you can do swine flu dot test mod, and again it would say this baby is fat. So just to stress, you can only import a module once per program, and even though you can change your module, even if you change it and then import it again, it's not going to import again. It's just going to import once. So that's your quick tutorial on how to import modules. And again, this is useful if you write a bunch of functions and a bunch of variables that you want to save somewhere else but you want to use over and over again. So practice doing that, and make sure that you use the py extension, and make sure you save it where it tells you to save it, or else it's not going to be able to find it. So in the next tutorial, I'm going to be going over other things that you can do with imported modules, and also be clearing up this a little bit more so you understand a little better. But for now, thank you guys for watching. I hope to see you next tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to your 39th Python tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to be going over a little more about modules, hopefully clearing some stuff up for you. So in the last tutorial, I showed you guys how to import a module using import and then the module name, such as actually this one was swine flu, I believe. That was the file name minus the py extension, and that's how you imported the module. And I showed you guys how to access functions from the module by using the module name and then the function name, which was test mod, and that is how you can access these functions inside this entire module. But I want to show you guys another couple handy tricks. Aside from accessing them this way with the module name and then the function name, Another easier thing that you might want to do is assign it to a local variable, and this is going to save you a bunch of typing. So instead of swineflu.testmod with empty parameters, you can just put baby or name it or whatever you want, swineflu.testmod without the parameters, and then go ahead and now baby is equal to swineflu.testmod. So whenever you want to use this function inside this module, what you would have to do is just put your variable name and empty parameters, and then it would automatically call that function from the module. So that's a handy little trick where you can access functions inside your module just using a single variable. And another thing that I told you guys is right now we have that function saying this baby is fat, and I showed you guys whenever you edit this baby is happy, and you go ahead and save it, then you can't just call it again, or it says this baby is fat again. But what happens if you import the entire thing again? Swine flu, and then go ahead and use that module swineflu.testmod. It still doesn't work, and I told you guys this because I want to stress the point, you can only import a module once per program. But when I told you guys that you can't do this without exiting idle and coming into it again and importing it again, I lied. There's a little trick that you can do where if your source file right here is edited, what you just did, we changed it to happy, you can use the new version with something called reload in your program. And this is probably the second easiest thing you're ever going to learn. This is reload, and then inside the parameters put the name of the module, so swine flu, just like that. And now you just reloaded that entire thing, and this is the updated version. So instead of putting import again if you edit your version, you have to put reload, and this is once your module is imported and then you change your source file, you have to put reload, and then this will give you the new module. So now if we use swine flu, what's it called, test mod, as you can see it says this baby is happy. And of course you can do your local variable trick to assign it to what it was before, but again, if you just try to import your new one, it won't import again. This is so to help you protect importing the same thing over another thing that was already imported. So again, if you want to get the new updated version, what you have to do is use the built-in reload function. So that is how you well, it's just some nifty little tricks, and also how you reload a module source file after you edited it. So I hope you guys learned a little something more about modules. If you didn't, I'll be clearing this up, and I'll promise you'll understand much more in the next couple tutorials. Well, if you have any questions, you can just leave me a comment or send me a message and I'll try to answer. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for all my latest videos. Again, thank you, and I'll see you next time. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to your 40th Python tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys how to get help with built-in modules. Now, in the last couple tutorials, I showed you guys how to make your own modules, but there's also a lot easier way to get modules, and that's to use the built-in modules. Now, there are a bunch of different modules that Python built in, and one of those, and one of the most common, is actually called math. So let's import math, and I'll show you guys a couple things to do with it. One of the functions that's built into the math module is a square root function. So to use this, just go ahead and put math.square root, then put a number, and it's going to return the square root of that number. This is just to show you guys that there's a bunch of different functions that are built into this module. But if you're saying, alright, how the heck was I supposed to know that square root function was built into that math module? Well, there's a built-in function that's in Python altogether that's used to find out all the things that a module contains, and this is the variables, the functions, other modules, and that built-in function is the dir, and it stands for a directory. And whenever you want to find out what information a module contains, just go ahead and put the name of that module after you imported it in the dir and go ahead and press enter. Now once you press enter, you're going to get a list of all this crap, and all of these things in here are what the module math contains. So again, to use that, put dir and then your module name as its parameter, and that's how you do that. And so you see all these names, but you don't really know what all of them mean. And if you're saying, alright, I don't know what fsum or radians or any of that does, so I need help even further to do that. Well, to do this, you need another built-in function that's built into Python, and that's called the help function. dir tells you what the module contains, but help, with your parameters as your module, it tells you exactly what each function does. So let's go ahead and press enter, and it's going to give you a huge list of all of those function names and variable names and module names, but this time it's going to tell you exactly what each one does. So for example, say that you didn't know what tan2 does. Well, you just look after your help function, it says returns the arctangent in radians. Oh, alright. And if you know what all that stuff means, then good for you. And if you don't, oh, then you shouldn't be using it anyways. And it also gives you the list of variables and all that stuff. So again, that is how you use the dir function to get a list of everything that a module contains, and the help function to give you like a definition of what each function and variable and all that other stuff does in a module. And the last thing I want to tell you guys about is, if you want to just look at a module real easy and see what it does before you get to using it, there's something called underscore, let me get my cursor out of the way, doc, actually DOC, stands for documentation underscore. And how you use this is you put the name of the module, such as math underscore doc underscore, and this is going to give you a quick documentation of the module. And it says this module is always available. Alright, so what does it do? It provides access to the mathematical functions. So it pretty much gives access to mathematical functions defined by the C standard. So unless you don't want to go through all that problem, this is a way to give you a quick summary of what the module is all about. So again, that is how you use import functions that already exist, modules that already exist in your Python language, how to use the dir function to find out all the things the module contains, how to use the help function to give you guys a detailed look of what each function does, and also how to use the built-in doc to give you guys documentation of whatever module you're looking at. So that's your quick tutorial in modules. And just to show you guys one more thing real quick, whenever you use dir with built-in math, you're gonna come across a list of these things, a list of names. The one with underscores and right here, those are the ones that you don't usually use in programming. These are the ones like cosine, pi, power, radians. Those are the ones that you're going to use typically. The doc is pretty much stuff like help and name. These are kind of like things that you wouldn't normally use. So again, that's just a little other tidbit of information, since when you're looking at these, wondering how to use it in your program, just don't worry about it. So again, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to teaching you something in the next tutorial. What's up guys, welcome to your 41st Python tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to work with files. Now by working with files, I mean just like opening up a text file and how to read the information from it, and also how to write information to a basic text file. So before I get started, let me show you guys something. In my hard drive I created a folder named test, and in that folder I created a document called A, and this is just a blank text document. So I just wanted to show that to you guys, so because this is the file I'm going to be working with, so just so you guys don't get confused. So let me X out of this. There we go. And now let's get to the good stuff. So in order to work with a file, the first thing that we need to do is create something called a file object, and this object is going to allow us to perform actions on that file. So I'm going to name mine FOB for file object, and once you have a file object, you need to set it equal to the path using the open method. Now the open method takes a couple parameters. The first one is extremely important. Actually, they're all extremely important, but this is the path of the directory wherever your file is that you're going to be working with. And if you remember, mine was in test and it was called a.text. I named it something short because I wanted to be able to do this and didn't take a long time. The next parameter it takes, and the last one I'm going to be teaching in this tutorial, is something called the mode. Now, this is an empty file and we want to be able to write text to it first of all. So I'm going to put W in here. If there was text already in there and you just wanted to read it, you would press R, but since it's empty, we're going to write something to it first. So now when we press enter, our file object was created and now we can do stuff to that file. So the first thing we want to be able to write information into the file. So go ahead and use your file object, and remember, whenever you use this, it refers to this file right here. So it says, alright, what do you want to do to this text file? Well, we want to write to it, and write is a built-in function, and write takes one parameter. What do you want to write to it? Let's just write, hey now, brown cow. And then when we press enter, it's going to write to that file. Now, since we're done with the file, you should always close your files when you're done with it. So put FOB close and go ahead and press enter, and this closes the file. Now we have the text, hey now brown cow, in that file. So let's go ahead and where is it? Computer, hard drive, test A. As you can see, that empty file now has hey now brown cow with brown misspelled, just like we did. So that is how you write text into a file using a file object to open it. Now, say we already have a file that has text in it like we just made. What happens if all we want to do is read from that file? Well, of course, we need to go again and create a file object, but this time we want to create something that we can read from. We can't use FOB because this only writes to it, but we want to be able to read from it. So let's make file object, and once you create it again, it's going to be a totally new object. So let's open, and this is going to look very familiar, and I don't know why I just did that. Don't do that. Open, and in the parameters, the first one is a directory, just like before. Test a.text, and your next parameter instead of W is actually R, since we're going to want to only read from it this time. Now, once you have your file object, in case you didn't figure out, you can go ahead and use the read function to read from your file. Now, the read function actually takes parameters, believe it or not. And the parameters it takes is how many bytes do you want to read. And a byte is the same thing as a character, whether it be a number or a letter. So let's go ahead and read the first 3 characters of this file, which includes hey now brown cow. Press enter and it says hey, since it's 1, 2, 3. I gave you guys the first 3 bytes. And this takes parameters because sometimes you don't want to read an entire file if it's like huge or something. But let's say you did want to read an entire file, and this is even easier than before. What you would do is press read built-in function and put no parameters at all. When you don't have anything in your parameters, it means alright, read the rest of the file. So go ahead and press enter, and it says now brown cow. And this is because you already read the first 3 bytes, so from that point it just reads the rest of it. If you wanted to read it from the beginning, you just would put nothing instead of 3 in here, and it would do that. So again, to recap one more time, when you want to work with a file, you first need to create a file object, and you need to set it equal to open, the directory, and what you want to do to that file. And once you have that, you can either read or write. If you want to write, you use the write function and then close, and if you want to read, you use the read function with the parameters how many bytes, or leave it empty if you want to read the whole file. And of course we should close this too, just to be safe. So that's your quick tutorial on how to work with files, open them, read them, and write text to them. And don't forget to close your files at the end to prevent memory leaks and stuff like that. So that's your quick tutorial. In the next tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys more stuff on dealing with files and stuff, and hopefully it will clear a lot of this stuff up. So thank you guys for watching. Practice opening, reading, and writing files, and I will see you next tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe. See ya. What's up guys, it's Bucky. Welcome to your 40-second Python tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys more of reading and writing lines in the text file. So you guys already know how to read a certain way from a text file using read and then something like 3 or something like that to read 3 bytes. And I also taught you guys how to read the rest of your file by using read with no parameters taken. But let me show you guys how to read line by line, and this is a little different. So let's go ahead and make a file object so we can do some stuff to our file. And we want to open it, of course. So let's see if I can remember my directory. It's in test and also a.text, I believe it is. And we also want to read, and we can't forget our parentheses right here. So that goes ahead and makes our object file. And now, in order to read a line, what we need to do is print, this is optional, fob.readLine. So instead of just read, we want to read one line. And once you hit enter, what this does is read a line up to the first break. And this has about 4 lines in it. So that's the first line of my text file. Hey now brown cow with brown misspelled. But again, just like read with no parameters, there's a different way to take read lines, or excuse me, there's a different way to read the lines of the rest of your file, and that's print your file object and read lines. And unlike this one where it's a read line that reads a single line, this one reads all the other line by line. And aside from this, let me show you guys. Aside from just reading line from line and printing it out like we've done before, what this function does is it takes lines by line, each line, and it inserts it into a list. So instead of just returning the lines line at a time, it takes all the lines and returns them line by line, but it does it as a list. So that's a different way where you can use read line to return a single line, or if you use read lines plural, it returns all the lines, but it does it as a list. So this is the first line, this is the second, third, and fourth. So aside from that, let me show you guys how to write lines. So let's go ahead and close this because we're done with it for now, and let's open up a new one where we can write. So file object equals open, and let's go ahead and see if I can remember my directory again, test a.text. And instead of reading this time, we're going to want to write this time, so make sure to put a W right there. Now we have a file object that can write. Now let's go ahead and write new lines into our file. So go ahead and with your file object, go ahead and put the write command. Now it only takes one parameter, and that's the write lines. Now let's go ahead and put this is a new line, and then put \n. And wherever you put this, I don't know if I told you guys before, but this inserts a new line. So whenever you write \n, it knows to go to the next line. So this is a new line, this is line 2, \n, this is third line, \n, this is the last and final line. And so once you go ahead and press enter, you just wrote 4 lines of text into your file. So let's go ahead and close that, and I'll show you guys exactly what it did. And I just hit that. That doesn't mean anything. I just actually hit that with my finger by accident. So now if we go ahead and look at our file, we should have 4 new lines that we just wrote. So this is line 2, this is third line, and this is the last and final line. So let's go ahead and close that, and let me show you guys how to do one more thing. Now I showed you guys how to read one line at a time. I showed you guys how to read all the lines, all the rest of your lines in your file, return as a list, and I showed you guys how to overwrite your old file to make a completely new file with new lines. But another thing I want to show you guys how to do is how to modify only certain lines in that file. If you can remember, that old file said this is new line, this is line 2, this is third line, this is last and final line for 1, 2, 3, and 4 fourth lines. But say you want to only edit one of those lines in that file. Let's go ahead and make a file object. Actually, I'm going to show you guys how to do this in the next tutorial. This one's getting kind of long. So in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to modify only certain lines using, well, I'll show you in the next tutorial. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's going on, guys? Welcome to your 43rd tutorial. And in this tutorial, as promised, I'm going to show you guys how to modify only certain lines. So here's our document we have so far. It's called A, and it says this is a new line, this is line 2, third line, last and final line. So let's go ahead and get rid of that, and let me show you guys how to modify certain lines in that document. So before we can modify the lines, we need to take all the lines or read them in. So let's go ahead and create a new file object, and of course, like before, we want this to be a read object. So look in your find your path C, hope I remember it, test a.text, and of course it's a read object, so go ahead and press R. And now we have a file object that can read. And what we want to do is create a list that using read lines. And remember, when you put read lines, it returns all of the lines to you in list format. So let's go ahead and do that. And we want to take that list and store it in a temporary variable. So let's go ahead and make a temporary variable called listme. You can name it anything you want. I'm going to name it listme so you know it's a list. I can't have list because list is an actual keyword. So let's go ahead and put listme and set it equal to FOB, which is a file object, dot read lines, and don't forget it needs to be plural, and that's it. Just put listme equal to FOB read lines. Now go ahead and press enter, and listme is now equal to, as you can see, equal to a list of all the lines in that document a.text. So now we can go ahead and close this since we don't need it anymore. And what we want to do now is modify this list. So we want to modify, let's say, the third line in it. So let's go ahead and write listme, and let's go ahead and press 2, because remember 2 is actually the third line since it starts at 0. And let's just change this line. So listme 2 equals I sure love bacon. So just to get something out of the ordinary. So now we have a list of the files, and this is the old one. The new one is the exact same thing, except the third line says I sure love bacon. So now once we print out listme, we get that new one that says I sure love bacon in this third one. The problem is we didn't actually save this to the text document yet. So even though we read from the file, the original file, and made a new list, we didn't save that list into a new file, or we didn't write it yet. So let's go ahead and write that. And I'll show you guys what I mean right here. Computer C A right there. As you can see, this is our document. We didn't change it yet. So even though we changed it using our program, we didn't change the actual file yet. It still says this is third line, and we don't want that. So let me go ahead, and we need to make a new file object, and we'll make this one an open object, and excuse me, a write object. So let's go ahead, and as our first parameter, you guys should get good at this, test.a.text, and make this a write, since we want to write, obviously. So the next thing I want to do is use a little function called write lines, and what write lines is going to do is allow you to do just that. So let's go ahead and file object and put write lines, and as your parameter, not write line. Actually, that brings me to a point. There is no write line function, because if there was a write line function, it would just be write, since that's what you're doing, writing a line. There's only a write lines function in order to write new lines. So what do we want to do add as a parameter to write multiple lines? Well, all we have to do is put the name of our variable list_me, since we already have a list of brand new lines. So let's go ahead and press enter, and what it does is once we close this, that right here, it took this parameter, which was a list of new lines, and it wrote new lines to whatever our object was, which was this text file right here, and then we just closed. So now once we did that, we should have some new lines in our document. So let's go ahead and see. Show you guys what I'm doing here. Test A, and it says this is a new line, this is line 2. I sure love bacon. This is the last and final line. And I'll show you guys why this didn't go to a new line, because I forgot to do something. Let's see, X out of this. When I put I sure love bacon, I should have done this. I sure love bacon, and I should have put new line, but I didn't. As you can see, \n from before is the new line character, and I forgot to put that, so that's why it was the old line. But again, that's how you use a list from reading from a list, and the read lines functions to get a list, and also the write lines function to import a list and write it as new lines in your file. So again, don't forget your new line character like I did, but if you didn't, it still works either way. So hopefully you understand a little bit what I did. I'll try to clear things up for you in the next couple of tutorials, but that's the basics of how to edit a certain line. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, you can just send me a message. Otherwise, just thank you guys. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.